Hey, everybody. Welcome to POTU Conspiracy or Theory Life Navigation. I want to talk a little bit about what inspired this. And let me see. It was a text message from a dear friend of mine. And it's been a crazy, I literally was going to do this yesterday, last night, and I started working on it. And it's been crazy because um, it's like, there's just so much I wanna say and so much stuff I wanna document, and then I started verifying some information with a conversation with, and we're gonna do that a little bit later. Here, I'll show you. We're gonna bring, ChatGPT 4, not 3, 4 online and have a conversation about some things, or at least I'll show you some things I researched earlier today. Anyway, I've created all these cool little, things to share, and, but it's just so much to talk about. So here's my friend. She says, let's see, dealing conversation. I'm not going to share the exact quotes. It was a pandemic, just part of a plan to destroy us all. That's not what she said, but it's kind of basic thing. Are we just a bunch of dumbed down saps who are losing our sovereignty daily? And anyway, it just hit me. It's like, well, yeah, a lot of folks have this fear, have this concern, and it's crazy, and it'll drive you crazy, and we're seeing it happening. It's part of, I think, why we're seeing mass shooters and stuff like that. So, before I get too far into this, I'm gonna activate a little caption thing with a little disclaimer, and, because this is all my personal opinions, it is nobody else's opinions, it's just my stuff. And then, I've been really struggling with, do I share my ideas with all of you, which I've created a structured format to do some of that, or do I give you some insights on how you can be empowered to sort some stuff out? And before I get into that, I just wanted you to realize that I enjoy conspiracies. We all do, right? They're ancient, but do they matter, right? And I have a theory about why we get obsessed with these things, and it's complicated, and I literally wasted a lot of time today arguing with ChatGPT about its ethics engine, which has clearly been infiltrated. I know that sounds bad. It really hasn't been, but it's been curbed from being able to share certain types of information freely. If you're trying to do any kind of research on things, certain things, no problem. Other things, there appears to be folks out there that do not want. You want to keep things, want to keep things ambiguous. But that's not what matters. What matters is we are a species of 8 billion people on this planet. That's a lot. The United States is only 300 million of that. Russia's only 100, well, they were 150 million. They might be a lot less now. So what's going on? And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So I've got here, I got notes. Let me show you the notes. These are my notes for tonight. And I don't know if we're going to get through all of that. And then if that wasn't enough, I have this resource document, which is I was trying to find a video I was going to play by Bo of the Fifth Column, and I couldn't find the resource document. So I think I'll throw on some ambient music while we're talking here today. I literally got home and I've been just scrambling to get everything set up. And let's try this one. Some of this music just drives me a little crazy. That's just horrible. So let's just not do that. Let's try. I had one earlier that I was testing. Was it ambient? Maybe it's ambient. That's kind of nice for midnight-ish. All right. So let's get into it. Let me bring up my notes, and this will help us. I don't want to be talking till 4 or 5 in the morning like I did not that long ago. Some really cool stuff. But let's just start. Let's just start. Got some cool animations that's going to lead us into transitions and things. And one of my goals for this is to help bring some peace of mind and processes. We're going to be talking about how to use advanced AI to help get to the bottom of conspiracies and things, or at least you can start getting some answers without having to just spend days pouring and searching through all sorts of stuff. It's really, really cool. But first, let's transition into financial stuff. Actually, this is a preface. So, financial discrimination is a big one. You know, if you don't know me very well, or if you do or whatever, DDTC, it's all about financial empowerment. Everyone's telling everyone, oh, I want to teach how to get rich fast, whatever, things like that. That's all possible, but really, what good is it if you're not empowered? Let me give you an example. People are rich, the ruling elite. Someone wins the lottery. What's the first thing they do? Well, if there are any like people I work with, they're like, well, the first thing you got to do is learn how to say no to everybody in your life. Really? I spent all my life saying no because I didn't have money. Now that I have money, I'm just supposed to not do anything with it. It just doesn't make any sense. And that really got crazy for me when I was looking at the $2.2 billion lottery and what you could do with $1 billion. And I kind of got angry with the billionaires of our world because they're clearly looking at things through a lens of fear and scarcity, and they have all the money in the world and it's not enough. And but what do I mean by financial discrimination? Well, okay, so stock market, United States, unless you are like, have like $1 million of assets and make $250,000 a year, you're not a qualified investor, so you can't participate in some of the stuff. What kind of stuff? Well, I'm watch the Wolf of Wall Street, where they package stuff. The big money, the qualified investors make their money before the bell rings. As soon as the bell rings, they've made their 18,000%, and they're selling it to the rest of us. Yeah, that's how that works, because they're qualified investors. So if you're not already rich, you don't have access to that kind of levels of return. What do you have access to? Bank CDs? I don't know. What are bank CDs doing right now? Good question. I'll type it in. Best CD rates. I'll pop it up so we can look at this together. This is not going to be a short cast. We got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. And I'm going to try to make it not boring. Wait a second. Where'd it go? Here we go. Best CD rates. Oh, wow. Up to 6.25%. Okay. So I've never seen one that high. So I know in crypto we can see 12 and 14%, 9% is pretty common. But I can tell you that I have spreadsheets for this that I made available through DDTC. We're going to come back to chat GBT and stuff like that here in a moment. The point is we don't have access to wealth producing levels of return. I could show that to you in the spreadsheet. I'm not going to go through it. I've done that on my YouTube channel, exploring what's possible, hours of masterclass level stuff for free, showing folks like, here's wealth producing levels of return. Can you start with $5? Can you start with 1,000? Can you start with 50? Can you start with 0? How does that play out? But what you and I have access to, you don't have access. It's called financial discrimination. Now, it's worse for the commodities markets, right? And crypto, because it's beyond qualified investor status. I don't have the name of the form, but you have to prove $10 million of liquid assets. Which is why, like you hear, Coinbase is setting up derivatives with Ethereum and Bitcoin. Ooh, that's exciting. Gemini's doing the same thing. It was all announced this last week, right? Was it on Monday? Big news. You don't have access because you're not already filthy rich. Ooh, hedge fund managers. Well, you know what? Those hedge fund managers manage money for people who are already wealthy. When you read about these things in the news, oh, hundreds of millions of dollars lost, blah, 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 hedge funds going upside down, blah, blah, blah. These are already very wealthy people, qualified investors, greedier than, I won't use the words because I'm live and it'll get censored, but just greedy. And they have no need to be greedy. And that's why I'm writing a book about, are you ready to be a billionaire? And it's for people who are already billionaires, because we're not teaching responsibility through stewardship or leadership through stewardship. And it's a big problem. I would go so far to say, and this is going to be a controversial statement and it upsets a lot of people, but if I look at our history as a species, and I look at all the ideologies, religions, beliefs, economic systems, non-systems, non-beliefs, they've all failed. None of them's brought peace on earth. None of them's brought the golden rule of life. Everyone's had the golden rule since the last epoch. When I say epoch, that's like over 10,000 years ago. We have evidence of a prior advanced civilization, and we had a cataclysmic epoch. So what we have is not working. And we know that we are reaching a point of extinction, possibly by our own hands. So I'm going to throw out little tidbits of insights along the way. And it's about time for me to just say that you all have access. So, yeah, so how do you fight back against this stuff? Well, here's the deal. I wanted to find a video by Bo the Fifth Column. Let me bring this back up here. So this financial discrimination means you do not have the opportunity. So how you run into this in the crypto world is, as a U.S. citizen, you can still get into one exchange without a VPN. There's some current legislations that was being introduced where they try to outlaw VPNs and make it a criminal offense for up to 10 years if you circumvent their rules using a VPN. I don't think it's going to get any traction on it, but right now we have an opportunity where you have access and you can start with zero. How much does it start to cost on options programs? That's the only kind of leverage you have in the United States. It's about $2,000, $2,500 you have to pony up. I've seen one place where it was as little as $150. It's high leverage stuff with a ticking time bomb. That's all you have access to. They're trying to protect and isolate you from having access. Meanwhile, normal people around the world are becoming millionaires and billionaires. And why is it? Why is it happening? Why is discrimination happening? Well, you know who else is locked out of a lot of these global exchanges? Iranian citizens, if you can believe that. North Korean citizens, off and on Russian citizens, off and on Chinese citizens. Yeah, the fascist dictatorship control the crap out of your regimes, and we're right up there with them. It's kind of scary if you think about how much we've lost. This This is literally a violation of your right to pursue happiness. You want to go into a casino, no problem. But why is this a threat to them? Which leads us into today's financial crisis. All right. In the descriptions on wherever you're watching this from, I'm being broadcast on what, 4 different platforms, 2 different Facebook places. There's a link to the Mississippi Scream by an archival site. You don't have to go buy the book, and it references the book, the author, and it gives you the history of fiat currency. And I'm not going to give you a big history lesson. Don't be lazy. Just go read it. And in fact, here, I'll show you what it sites looks like. I'll bring it up. They have it right here. And I was going to have it prepped so I could just show you, but sorry, it's just crazy how much work goes into this stuff. All right. Really? 404 error. It was working yesterday. All right. So the link's bad. So sorry about that. But if you go Google Mississippi Scheme, you'll find it. You'll find it. Can't believe it's a bad link. All right. It was working yesterday. They really don't want you to know about it, but it's been a stock market classic since the 1800s. It's about the madness of crowds, all that sort of cool stuff. Let me go back to my notes so I don't get off track. So let's talk about why we're having a financial crisis. Okay. And a little bit of a history that's not conspiracy. Some of it might be conspiracy. And I'll see if I can remember, and I will cite where I think I heard that from. When I say that, it's because 8 years ago I had a concussion, and a year and a half ago I had COVID. So that messes with memory sometimes. All right. You've seen it in the news all the time. We're the world's base currency, right? Okay. What does that mean? It means even our enemy uses US dollar for transactions. It's kind of cool, right? And what does that empower us to do? Well, I don't know about you. Have you ever had a bad month where you didn't have enough money to pay all your bills? Yeah, most of us have. In fact, our federal government's having it right now. So what do? They don't even print the more money. They walk into a computer and just say, "We need more money." Boom, bam. All right, and then we pay interest on that money, and it's really, really complicated. See, so one of the conspiracy theories is, the Federal Reserve is a privately owned company established by families after the 1930s, and that's not true. It was established in the early 1900s. Yeah, I just found that out today. I bought into that theory for a long time. But it was all about the Jekyll Island people. Yeah, it was. And it's very complicated. It's kind of a hybrid, both public and privately held through regional banks. And those regional banks, if you start at, you want here, rather than try to explain it to you, let me show you the rabbit hole that I found myself in and how cool ChatGPT is. All right, let me turn this back on. Don't worry, we're not gonna spend hours reading through this stuff. So where is it? Federal Reserve history. Let me scroll up. Just give you an idea of the conversation I had with ChatGPT 4 today. Be a U.S. global history. I want information on the attempt to overthrow the U.S. government in the 1930s because I'm thinking, well, it's probably related. That's another concept to talk about later. Who are the wealthy business interests? And it gives me the names. Things like Steel and DuPont, the American Liberty League, Singer Sewing Machine, Fortune people, American Legion. Let's see. All sorts of stuff. Anyway, so you can start asking questions like, who established the Federal Reserve Bank and when was it established? And you start getting answers at, December 23rd, 1913. Is the Federal Reserve a private or for-profit business? And it's a unique structure that's public and private institutions. So I'm still thinking about this. So I was all prepared to talk about this stuff, and I realized I was wrong. And then we got into who attended, just to talk about, I asked about the conspiracy theories. And so it gave me analysis of where these conspiracy theories came from. I want to know who attended the Jekyll Island meeting. It gave me a list of names. Who are these people? Senators, an economist, Citibank, Citibank, 1910. There's clues, right? To support some of these things. First Bank in New York, Bankers Trust Company, Warburg Investment Banking, all sorts of stuff. European Central Banking Systems was involved with that little meeting. Hmm. What's interesting about that is in the later 1800s, our founding folks literally marched European bankers off from American soil onto their boats at gunpoint. Didn't get a chance to talk about that, but they made it back. Interesting. I also was interested about the family, which is an interesting thing that came out of Seattle, Washington. And what I thought was interesting is I thought it was later than that, but it was like 1907. Huh. Interesting. And there's a Netflix documentary on the family, but who's involved with that sort of thing? This is all mainly West Coast lumber, West Coast stuff. The Jekyll Island stuff was kind of East Coast stuff and European stuff. It's complicated. Let's see what else we have here. Were the privately held interests of the Federal Reserve owned primarily by those who attended the meeting? And it's just kind of, that you start getting weird information. One of the reasons why we don't have exacting information is as great as this AI is, it only has access to the information that's been made publicly available via the internet. And a lot of that's archive, wiki information. It's an extensive amount of data. Who owned the 12? It's just like, okay, well, and it gives you some, whatever. It's a hybrid system, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, well, and I says, well, who owned the 12 regional banks? For public or private. And anyway, you finally get down to where, well, these banks can be privately held. And yeah, some of those attendees had financial interests and in whatever, whatever, whatever. So I had to stop. Now, this probably would have taken me to just get all this information in a condensed format, would have taken me, I don't know, a year trying to use Google search when it comes up with all the crap and paid crap and just it just, this is condensed, analyzed information. It's only as good as the information is available. That's a caveat here, right? Well, that's the Federal Reserve. But what does it matter? What does it have to do with what's going on now? Well, we printed up too much money. So here's what happened. Okay, quick history lesson. Fiat currency was a great idea. Government in France, this is what they did. They all the little people could no longer own gold or silver, right? And you could keep it ratted out and stuff like that. All that all came into the treasury, right? Well, what happened in the 1920s? The United States kind of forbade U.S. citizens from owning gold. Mississippi Scheme. And then they fixed the price of gold globally, $28 an ounce until the 70s, right? We converted to a fiat currency. We used to have a gold, you remember gold certificates, silver certificates? I used to have some of those, right? You go to the bank and exchange them for gold or silver. Well, in the 70s, we created this great idea. Let's just print money backed by nothing. And then, I don't know, as of, 5, 10 years ago, we have the entire world on this, including the holdouts, I think, which was the Swiss. They were a gold-backed currency, but nope, they switched, right? And then Russia, during this war, switched back to gold-backed currency. The Russian ruble is the only currency that actually is backed by anything. Kind of interesting, right? But it also shows that, they just said, oh, we're backed by gold now. They can also make a decision, we're not backed by gold tomorrow. And, same thing with China. They want to replace the US world currency. They've been wanting to do this for years. I think it is the book, Vulture's Vulture's Picnic by an award-winning investigative journalist exposes the entire really big money, like big oil industry money type stuff, and how crazy that is, right? And I believe it was there one of the main reasons why we invaded Iraq was because Saddam was trying to establish an oil mercantile based on the euro instead of the US dollar. I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. I think that's actually documented. I didn't have time to dig into that. How do we sort that out? Well, guess what? For the first time in history, we've got this thing called AI. And you know who all the people who want to delay its development are? Already wealthy rich people. Why is that? Well, because it could analyze patterns in business, finance, tax returns. It could analyze someone's public records. It could analyze their voting records, all that, and give you a readout within seconds telling you, oh, this person's corrupt. In fact, they lied to you 97.24% of the time. And you could say, well, really, what was the most important legislation? I mean, you could literally have that conversation in real time, and you can do most of that now. They who rule the world in power are scared shitless of AI. They want you to be afraid of it, right? It's going to destroy the world. No, it's not. Probably going to save us. We're already, I don't know if you figured it out, but we're already tripped over a lot of, what do I call it, tipping points for our own self destruction. And that's provided some of the things we're not overdue for don't show up. It's crazy. If you're one of the wealthy ruling elite tuning into this now or later, here's your end game. I'll be publishing a little book that AI helped me write, hopefully this month. Your end game is a gilded silo in the ground, and you will never leave it. You'll probably end up running out of food. You probably haven't built it to be sustainability past a certain period of time, which means your friends and family, you're probably going to end up being cannibals. And then you're going to die of starvation. Or if you leave, you're going to die of radiation, poisoning, all sorts of other stuff. And if you manage to survive that and your prodigy generations from now, after all the radiation dies down and Jesus didn't come back to save everybody, and that one dude from Islam didn't crawl out of the well, and Allah didn't wave and speak over the waters. No offense. I'm just making that shit up right now. The point is whatever the religious thing that's perpetuating the idea that we have to blow ourselves up first, for the first time in history, when those things were talked about, man, the trebuchet was amazing advancement. I don't believe in prophecy, and I know that's going to upset a lot of folks. Why? Because prophecy is determinism. So if it's all been determined, then what's the point? Seriously, what's the point? It's just a simulation, like me running a game on my phone. Free will is irrelevant. That means every single criminal was destined to be one. That's a really messy concept. But you know what makes a lot of sense? Why were they so accurate? Well, it's not that they were accurate. They could tell they were smart. They We still don't have literacy, but back then they had literacy. Very few people. They were the magi. They were the scientists. They were smart. And they said, listen, if you keep being a prick as a ruler, we're going to self-destruct. If you keep being greedy, we're going to self-destruct. The whole species is going to die someday. And I think the people in rule just didn't like being challenged. They usually got slaughtered. They made a nice story because they were usually beloved, smart people. And then they says, well, this is a prophecy for the future. And fascism was born. And to protect you from that future, you must support my reign, which has been ordained by divine right of the God. And I think was it Egypt? They reigned for thousands of years. They began with divine rights, and then they actually became the gods themselves. Pharaoh was God, and they were probably the most successful since the last epoch that we've had. So it's pretty impressive what they built, right? I know it's fascinating, and we're documenting the History Channel and all this sort of thing. But at the end of the day, they created a death cult prophecy that infiltrated all the good stuff that said, listen, we can't have world peace. Otherwise, we would have had it after World War II. We could have. We literally allowed an ancient prophecy that cannot be proven to distribute legal land claim rights, blood rights, to people who converted to something 1,800 years ago, because the people who had the quote unquote blood rights were actually still living in the area under the rule of Islam. But they know that history over there. But why? Because the ruling elites wanted perpetual conflict for profits, and maybe they like blowing things up, or they like science and engineering. I don't know. We may never know until, I don't know, all the records are released and advanced AI has a chance. It's all fed into it. Imagine if all of the Vatican Library, they controlled all the knowledge, right? They created the first corporation, right? That was a religious thing. I didn't know it was a religious thing. They created the first corporation, right? And it was really cool. It was really neat that you could like buy absolution in advance of your sin. So if you want to have sex with your neighbor's wife, you just went to the priest and says, "Yeah, we need 4 goats, and I'd like your next bull calf." And okay, and they exchanged the rights. They received absolution. They had forgiveness of sin. Have a nice day. All these things were established with really all about power, and it was not love, peace, and joy. It was slaughter, convert and die. And I'm not going to get into it because it's worse than a Saw movie if you get into the records. Wouldn't it be neat if that was all scanned in? Advanced AI could convert to any single language, and we could actually read the history that they isolated, all their own records, and then ask questions. That's all right now before us. Can be made real in the next 5 years or next 2 years or less. If only they wouldn't have destroyed that one library in Egypt. Had information going back to our previous epoch. Sad, sad times. So, yeah, so I don't know why the ruling elite want to destroy themselves other than they have an obsession. Obsession is the root of all evil, not money, because obsession preexisted money. Money came later as a medium of exchange. So, what I've noticed is people who want to become very, very wealthy, they develop lots of fetishes. And the only way to have all your illegal fetishes taken care of, this is my theory, is you have to have money and power. So if you have money, you just fly to a place where it doesn't matter. Our ruling elite's been doing that forever. When they discovered Hawaii, the explorers, they were having a lot of fun with the beautiful Polynesian women, the most friendly women they've ever met in their lives. And we conquered them, 1800s, right? They were the last state to be conquered, United States, by force. Outlawed their religion, outlawed their language, outlawed everything. Yeah. So I don't know we thought, oh, George Soros or the other the Koch brothers. You know what? If you know their names, they're probably just the people that they want you to point to. I mean, if you read through some of the stuff, talk about the medieval times, when one kingdom wanted to go to war with another kingdom, they had to go borrow money. Who did they borrow that money from? I don't know. I know the coffers of England was pretty much came from Africa and selling opium to China. The Opium Wars, you know what that was about? You'd think that was about stopping opium. No, 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 no. England was making so much money addicting the entire nation of China to opium. The Chinese government made it a capital punishment, and England went to war to force the opium trade onto that country. Yeah. Maybe some of these ruling families go all the way back then. I know we've got all the theories about the shape-shifting aliens and stuff like that. And maybe, but even a shape-shifting alien, what good is a desolate planet going to be to them? It's not. At some point, it's like you got to ask yourself, what's the end game? And that is what is part of this is about, is to share how I think about these interesting concepts. What is the end game? Okay, so what's the end game for Putin? What's he going to gain now if he wins with Ukraine? It doesn't look like he's going to. What's he going to win? An ecological disaster. People that have a blood right vengeance against him and anyone that was involved for generations to come. What does he gain from it? Why did he even do it in the first place? He's already a billionaire, richest person in the world. He could have anything he wanted to, right? By force in that country, right? Because he's basically a dictator, right? Oh, but I thought he's a godless communist, isn't he? Well, no, actually, that's 1950s USA propaganda. we don't want to talk about the Russian Orthodox Christian Church. In fact, if you watch these Netflix and I don't know, okay, before I get into that, I can harp on Christianity a lot because it's the most religious concept I'm most familiar with, being born and raised in the United States. 72% chance that you are part of that, up to 92% chance that you are some kind of Abrahamic association. I'm not here to pick on anyone's belief, other than that I've noticed, because that is a word we don't like to use, but all the cult videos, all the crazy stuff, they use initials so they don't have to use the word Christian in the title. We're protecting the data. We don't want that to be revealed what that is, right? Just like Satan came out of Arabia, right? It's not really part of the Old Testament. Lucifer, the light bringer, he's basically a prosecuting attorney, and he was going to convict you and prosecute you before the big guy's throne room, right? And then entered this jinn mythology around the same time Christianity, which was designed by the Roman Book of Rituals. Anyway, it's just fascinating history, right? We're just bits and pieces, right? But this jinn, Satan, and the jinn is a whole nother mythology that is ancient, that goes back to Samaria, and a lot of plagiarized texts that we think are part of our religious history aren't. But anyway, this is stuff that would take lifetimes to just get a clue over. Since the internet came around, people started being able to search, and then Google could translate stuff, so you could see what your enemy was posting and find out, oh, those people kind of have the same issues that you do, or worse. And AI is going to even it's already made it just hugely more interesting. I've got a cough, so I'm going to just mute that so you don't have to listen to that. And while I'm muting that, I'm going to just replay this really cool thing I made today. All right. So we're about to transition into another conspiracy theory concept. And I want to bring up this one. I was wondering where that went. I mislabeled things today, and that was the one that was supposed to have been played before I started talking about financial discrimination. A little bit out of sequence. All right. So let's see if we can find the right one while I'm jabbering away here. I already did the ruling elites, didn't I? I guess I got one more. Let's just get out of the way. All right, so that was out of order too. So maybe if I saw my note, this is about as hard for me to read as it is for you. In fact, I should turn this off while I'm trying to reference my notes. I'm going to make my notes cleaned up available in our Patreon group. So anyway, it's $5 a month. So anyway, I teach cryptocurrency stuff. I should be charging between $500, depending on the module, to $5,000. I'm not going to do it. I just don't have time for it. Maybe after I retire. So the whole thing about the ruling elite is, and let's talk about fascism, because take the time to go work with ChatGPT, the free version, or Bard. Bard uses an engine, but has access to the current information. All right. So, and ask questions like, what is fascism? And ask your questions, things that you heard at church, things that you heard at the lodge, things that you heard at work. I don't know why my face is getting weird. Do I need more light? Does my lens need to be cleaned? Maybe my lens needs to be cleaned. I apologize for this, everybody. I'm gonna turn off that camera and clean the lens really quick. Here, listen to some ambient music while I do that. No, I don't know what it's causing. I'm wondering if I'm overheating or something. We're just gonna have to go with it. I apologize for that. Um, I could switch cameras maybe. It's better if I'm over here, isn't it? All right. Or is it the software causing it? Yeah. It's the things that happen when you stream to multiple locations and stuff. So I'm still working on the bugs on this stuff. It's really kind of wild. I spent thousands of dollars on being able to do this. It's quite amazing. So if you're thinking I'm making tons of money by doing this, that would be an error. I probably will not see a return of it on investment for this till after I've retired. Someday, someday. Okay, so about the ruling elite in fascism. This is how fascism works. And everyone likes to talk about. Everyone thinks they're like an expert in dictatorships and things. And I think Netflix actually did a really good documentary about teaching you how to be a dictator. Everyone should watch that. But it's all about they need the population impoverished, struggling, and then right, and then the shit and chaos needs to start happening, like really big, not isolated here and there, like really, really big. Getting the people to override. I mean, I think is it happening in Venezuela where they get building the world's largest prison because of the gang and drug problem there, right? Well, they literally the people got so bad, right, that the people voted to give one guy all the power. They were their habeas corpus rights. You could be arrested. You don't have to be charged. You'd be thrown in jail. Maybe someday you'll have a hearing. But if you have a tattoo, if they even think something's wrong with you, you go to jail. And that's power. Democracies and republics don't function that way, right? Those that want ultimate power, that's their end game. Problem with the United States is we're armed. We're going to get to that. There's a reason why I added that. I want to talk a little bit about mass shootings. But before I do that, I want to play a little bit. Do I have it here? I do. It's just not loaded up. This is kind of I'm kind of doing I'm going to do. It's a short little thing, but it's literally about. Before we get into the mass shootings and guns and stuff, I want to talk about rights and things. But I want to lead off with this video. All right. All right. That was kind of cute. Yeah, I literally have been making those as fast as I can. I didn't get them all made to kind of make things interesting here. All right. So let's. Oh, in fact, I was supposed to lead off with this in my notes. Gun rights, civil rights, all those rights, right? So I like to tell folks, I want all of my rights. It's kind of weird that we're in a country where like we have one political party that protects one certain set of rights, and we have another political party that protects a different set of rights. Why is that? Yeah, it's almost like there's a conspiracy going on there. It's a good, interesting idea. The concept was if you have people representing business, you have people representing labor. Okay, let's use that. It was more complex than that, but whatever. But each had radical concepts. What they would do in our government is they would come and debate and fight, not physically, but I mean debate type fighting. And and in order to get anything done, they would have to compromise. Brilliant idea. But somewhere along the last, I don't know, 100 years, we got this idea of all or none. So the oath, I was gonna do that. I want to read the oath of office that I don't see very few, less than maybe 2% actually honoring it. So here, let me the ambient, maybe the ambient sounds causing the issue. I'm gonna turn that off for a second. So when they get voted in, they make an oath to you and me and to everybody, their constituency. And it's all under the umbrella to protect the Constitution of the United States, it's your Bill of Rights, all that sort of stuff, right? But for some reason, when we vote people into the office, they forget about the other half of the people who don't agree with them, which is not how it's supposed to work. I think the original president, vice presidents, like whoever lost the presidential race was the vice president. It used to be. I thought that was interesting. Um, anyway, so we have a brilliant design for a government that we adopted from the indigenous tribes of America that we basically conquered under divine rights. But let's get back to rights. Everyone has their rights, but they don't understand them. They don't know when they lose their rights. This is the biggest thing I see happening. We don't know when you lose your rights. And what does the Constitution say? All men have certain unalienable rights, right? Yeah. But you would think that everyone thought it says all US citizen white males have certain unalienable rights. It's not what it says. And I think if you go to the United Nations, they actually have a brilliant document called the Universal Right Declaration of Human Rights. They kind of, in fact, I have it. I thought it was just the United States, but there was a lot of other countries that had advanced human rights, and I have that in the Chat GBT thing somewhere. But you can go research that. How did the Declaration United the Universal Declaration of Human Rights get written? Do you see the word sentient that I've added in there? Why did I add the word sentient? Well, what if we're not the only intelligent species we encounter in the universe? Hmm. Yeah. I'd like to let everyone know women are sentient. To all the whatever racist type folks out there, and I understand why you're angry to a certain extent, right? Because I remember going to school and if unless you were a minority or someone from another country, you couldn't get funding. You were expected to, as a white person, to just pay your own way and work 3 jobs. And you saw people with full scholarships, and you're like, "Who's paying for that?" And yeah, a lot of folks are angry about that. But that was a bigger game plan and things, and it didn't need to be that way because oddly enough, a couple generations before that, if you decided to go to college, it was affordable. And it became a profit center to be exploited. Yeah, it's what we do. So I lost my train of thought there. Oh yes, the rights. So we decided slavery that that entire demographic weren't quite human. Religious justifications, biblical justifications for it, right? By the way, I'm going to make a declarative statement. At no time, in any time in any religious history, did any divine being that created all that is, if you believe in the golden rule and a loving deity, created any concept of a slave ever, ever. It's a lie. Why? Why would I say that? Because the concept of deity, God, the ultimate creator, God is love, Jesus, right? All that cool stuff, right? Islam, you acknowledge Jesus is a great prophet, right? Well, doesn't make any sense to have slavery then. Well, then what do we do? We had rulers that wrote or commissioned that stuff to be written under threat of really horrible stuff done to them, created the story in order to justify it. And that's got to stop. We got to face that history. We can't hide it anymore. Well, it's just conjecture. Is it? It defies any concept. Now, if you look at Jesus, he was brilliant and he was logical. So be Christ like, right? Yeah. Why not? I can get on board with that. I can get on board with God is love. I can get on board with the golden rule. You know what's cool about the golden rule? Why I keep mentioning it? And when you read any of my posts and whatever, if you follow me, it's because it is the one concept that regardless of our language, regardless of time and history, regardless of epoch, and actually it's even evidenced in nature where you have non-sentient beings reflect this. We know this. We have it. We've had it. It's the one thing we have never actually lived by. We haven't governed by it. We haven't designed a justice system by it. We haven't designed law around it. We just sort of just say, wow, that's really good. And then we don't do it. It will literally be the end of us if we don't figure it out. If there is a test, in my opinion, divine is like, well, you guys haven't mastered that. You made up a lot of shit in my name or her name or whatever name and lots of names. Over 10,000 names in this epoch. A lot of more names in the previous epochs. We keep discovering more. So, my theory, David's theory, POTU theory, I like using the word theory because a lot of folks teaching crap talk in absolutes when they should be talking about theory. Well, I'm sorry, but until we master that, which we all know, it's something we all know. China knows it, Putin knows it, Iranian people know it, ISIS knows it, everybody knows it. Everybody, the indigenous knows it, the aborigines knows it. Everybody knows the golden rule. Do unto others, you'd have others do unto you. Go Google it. You can take a look and get a list of all the different religious belief systems known to humanity. AI can help you get that list, by the way. They've made posters of it. We didn't make it the golden law, and we need to fix that. We literally could change everything overnight. And when I say that, here's another thing. You are indigenous to planet Earth. You are part of the first peoples of planet Earth. You are. Yeah, let that sink in. It's important. Something that really froths me. I'm really being cautious with my language tonight. Being a former Marine, that's a discipline. To think, have you ever gone out in the wilderness and stared up into the Milky Way galaxy and just seen the vastness of it? It's hard if you're in the city. You have to literally get out into wilderness and look up. No full moon either. It's mind blowing. We now have two different advanced telescopes and we are seeing things beyond our imagination. We've calculated the odds of life on our little Cinderella planet here in our little galaxy. And based on that as a reference point, we have calculated out that there's probably billions, if not trillions, of other species just like us out there. So, most likely you believe in something. All right. I'll respect that. Your God created all of that. Now tell me again how he or she needs money. He or she needs to fight over a little piece of land or a continent for it, already owns it. There's one of your biggest conspiracies in history. It's not to say that religion's not important. It's not to say that it hasn't done good things. Usually usually women within those religions done good thing. Mother Teresa. One of the most inspiring things I found out about Mother Teresa was after she died, they found those letters that she was writing to her confessor saying, "I'm not sure if God exists." Why was that exciting to me? Because here was somebody that was in a religious order saying, I got doubts. But not only do I have doubts, though, I still know that what I'm doing is a good thing. And when she went to the very wealthy religious order for money, they said, we don't have any money for that. What'd she say? It's a famous quote. I have these 2 pennies. With this and God's help, I can do anything. I like that idea. A lot of folks, controversial about her because she wasn't perfect. You're right. She wasn't perfect. A lot of haters out there of everybody, anybody, including me. That's fine. But notice it wasn't a man that did that. If you're in Portland, Providence Hospital, one of the top 10 hospitals in the United States, right? If you walk through the bowels of that institution, you'll find a little display. It shows kind of a horse and these nuns. It's like, what's this? It's a history of these nuns, Sisters of Providence, during the gold rush, right? On horseback, going out to all the camps. You know what's going on in the camps? Well, prostitution, brothels, everywhere, of course, and gambling, of course, a lot of drinking, right? Vigilante justice. So if you did something, they just took care of it. There's no judge. There's no law. Oregon was the wild, wild west on steroids. Shanghai, we were the Shanghai capital of the world. San Francisco, no, no, no. They were all right. No, Oregon was crazy. If you ever get to Oregon, take the Lone Fir Cemetery tour. It costs you $10. You and your family, all your kids need to go through it so you can see real Oregon history. You'll notice there's not a lot of crosses or any religious symbols on any of the gravestones from that entire era. More modern stuff, sorta. What is the icon? What is it? It's all Mason stuff. Masonry, Freemasonry. You know, the founders who are all Masons kind of thing. Ooh, conspiracy theory stuff. Yeah, that's a whole nother interesting concept. We're not going to get into that. I'm just mentioning it because there's so many cool things out there. Listen to folks today talking, we were founded as a this or that or the other thing. And no, we were not. We were founded on the concept of freedom. So dangerous was that idea that even the founders had to meet in secret. They had one basic tenet and rule that was passed on to the Boy Scouts in order to become an Eagle Scout. Wasn't required to be a scout. If you want to be an Eagle Scout, you have to acknowledge that there's a divine creator. You don't have to acknowledge which divine creator or what your concept is. If your idea is Tho, that works, right? Cool. Whatever. Hera, whatever. I'm just throwing names out there. I'm not trying to whatever. Just the acknowledgement of divine. In their world, they had this idea that, you know what? It makes sense to us that there is divine intelligence out there. You know, the unseen, invisible hand that guides the markets. It was revolutionary because prior to that, you did not have individual rights, right? You were the serfs and you supported whoever was the divine right to rule over you. And if you disagreed with them, they slaughtered you in very unpleasant ways. And if they were young lords and you decided to get married, you needed their approval, and you needed their approval to have children unless, well, your child came out a result of their divine right to have your wife on first night. Divine right. Is their divine right. God ordained, Jesus ordained that right. So, I mean, you know, seriously, none of this should be a mystery to anybody, but it seems like we have amnesia. We bury our heads in the sand of the origins of the stuff. All right. Rights. We have a war on rights, which we shouldn't be happening. Life, liberty, and pursuit happiness. Okay, right to life. That makes sense. So let's go over the basics. If someone's going to kill you, you have the right to defend yourself. Would you agree with me? Now, there were certain areas and rules. If you were a slave, you did not have the right to defend yourself. If you did, you were usually tortured to death. But that's an inalienable right, right? Of all life, right? You corner a possum, what does it do? It fights. It's an instinct. It has the right to life. And we extinguish these rights for them. They're not sentient. We have a divine right. Okay. Unless we come across a bear and we're unarmed and they're unarmed, and it's probably not a good situation. They will defend themselves, and we probably should run. Good luck. Good thing is like, you know, grizzly bears and black bears, they kind of like berries and salmon. We're not in their food profile. So don't provoke them, you know, golden rule kind of thing kind of works unless they're rabid or starving. All right. That was a segue. So you understand your right to life. Liberty. Well, yeah, that's not, you know, it's your liberty. It's your right to be able to walk down the street, to cross state lines, to travel. You do not have the liberty to leave the United States without a passport. I thought we were free. Shouldn't you be free to live anywhere in the world you want? If you're indigenous to the planet, yeah, just my opinion. Oh, yeah. Hmm. What I find hilarious is when we find caches of gold and silver and jewels that were buried thousands of years ago by some extinct kingdom. So some ruler that slaughtered all of his neighbors in order to come to power, enslaved all his friends, and created an army, and he had sovereignty. His sovereignty was his military power, but even then, he had to hide it. His wealth, he had to hide it. So he buried it, and then he died, and then the kingdom went away. Thousands of years later, someone with a $300 to $5,000 metal detector finds it and becomes wealthy overnight. Bam! Unless you're in England, if you find stuff like that, the crown owns it. I'm not kidding you. It's crazy. All right, so yeah, so much for treasure hunting in certain countries, right? I mean, really, that's history, and but if you're going to do that, then you know, liberties, freedom. Okay, so liberties, like not being searched, seizure without a warrant. That's why privacy is a big thing. You know, KYC, know your customer, came out with Coinbase, or in the United States, crypto exchanges enforced around the world. Got to stop, drug trafficking, cartels, all that sort of stuff. Is it really? Because, according to, was it How to Become a Drug Lord, Narconomics, investigative reporter, US dollar is the favored currency. Why? Because unlike cryptocurrency creates a auditable, auto-auditing record. Can't forge it. You can forge a US dollar, can't forge cryptocurrency. So every time a criminal uses cryptocurrency, it creates a record that can be used in court to prosecute him or her or them. The last I free advice to all the criminals out there, don't use cryptocurrency. It's not your friend. It's also not your friend of the government and anyone that's corrupt. Neither is technology. It's not your friend. Creates a record. Yeah. Serious. All right. Most human beings in the world cannot pass a KYC. Know your customer. Why? Because they don't have an ID. They're literally born into a geographic container enforced by Border Patrol. They may have a cell phone, right? A lot of places in Africa, they don't have money access, banking access, but they trade cell minutes. Cell minutes is currency for them. It's crazy. You should research into this. This is crazy stuff. So, in order to keep the vast majority of humans enslaved, you got to keep them out of banking. Banking's for wealthy people. Banking's for the privileged. I live in the United States, so every person here is privileged unless you can't open a bank account. Hello, homeless people. We have an epidemic of homeless here in Oregon. They lose banking. Then they get their wallet stolen. Now they don't have ID. They don't have money to get an ID, so they can't prove who they are. They may have a cell phone, though. Guess what? They're enslaved. There's no way out without help. None. Except for cryptocurrency right now. Why? Well, last year, in 2022, actually, I'm not going to go into the whole story. You can listen to my other stuff, but I want to see, could somebody without ID, but with a cell phone, start with no money? My first idea was a panhandle. They could go to an ATM, deposit the money into their bank account, and then transfer to Coinbase and do that. They can't. They can't pass KYC. They don't have ID. Which, by the way, is a violation of their civil rights and liberties. Nowhere in there that says you have to prove who the F you are. But we can't even have that conversation because we have all this crazy stuff going on. We've always had a slave population. All major societies in this modern concept of the last 6,000 years, not going to get into that history, has had a slave population or an indentured servitude population. Yeah. They do the jobs that we won't do unless we have slave labor doing it. Well, they're working on it. For-profit prisons is a thing. A couple things shouldn't be for profit. Healthcare shouldn't be for profit. Neither should the justice or prison system because it creates a financial incentive. And this is where fascism works. They want you so broke, so struggling, so starving that you will sell your daughter into whoever wants. I'll just leave it at that. How do we know this? Well, we know it happens in Iran. Yeah, here's how that has worked historically. So, family's broke, has daughters. They used to bury daughters alive in the desert because they wanted sons. Okay, Islam kind of changed that. So, that whole thing advanced human rights for women, and then later they retracted some of the rights after um, Muhammad passed. And I don't want to use his name because when you use his name, you're supposed to say certain things. And I'm not Islam. I have Islamic friends. I don't want to disrespect them. But in honor of his name, after he passed, people that came later reversed women's rights to a certain degree. And then it became a power struggle and all sorts of other cool stuff. But be that as it may, it's an 1800-year-old struggle that we're not going to solve today. Or maybe we are. But father puts is so impoverished, he puts his daughter to work or his wife to work in the streets as a prostitute, which is against the law. They get caught, right? So the woman is blamed, right? And of course, in order to make sure that she goes to hell, she's raped in prison because apparently that's a thing. And then she's executed. Yeah. Their anti-abortion laws are so strong or whatever that if a woman gets, now maybe it's changed and maybe this is propaganda that I've heard, that one of their rules used to be, or maybe still is, that if a woman is unwed and gets pregnant, the father of the daughter is supposed to kill the daughter right after the birth of the child. How's that? Honor killings, all this sort of stuff, right? How's that for a religious belief system that emerged? Did it stop abortions? No. Did it stop anything? No. Those laws never, capital punishment didn't stop the opium, anything in China. Prohibitions create the markets. Want to outlaw the guns in the United States? That's fine. You just create a black market for it. That's all you do. Outlaw anything. We learned this. We should have learned this with the alcohol prohibitions. Al Capone he was actually, everyone respected him. Why? Because he got alcohol. Everyone wanted it. And all the speakeasies, it all went underground. And we lost tax revenue. It was stupid. It was allowing religious concepts to become law to rule over everyone as a Puritanism kind of stuff, which failed, thankfully. And these people would like march people around the villages naked too. It's just weird. The history of all these things, we don't have time because we're too busy working just to survive, right? I'm amazed at how much money it takes, and it's still kind of bizarre when I look at my finances, how much the government takes, and then knowing that the money's taxed again and again and again. Why don't wealthy people pay taxes? You heard about that, right? Right? I pay less taxes than my secretary. Ha ha. Ha. We should change that. Well, why don't you? Joke about it. When America was, well, we still had racism and all sorts of other issues, but when we were building schools and infrastructure, and it was kind of really cool, and someone who just worked for a living could have a family of 5 to 10 kids and own a house with and if they needed a mortgage, it was only 3 to 5 years. The wealthy multimillionaires were being taxed 97% of their revenue. That doesn't seem fair, does it? Well, until you realize that 97% of the revenue came from the people who are working, and they were still multimillionaires. It did not impact them one bit. We don't understand money. In fact, I don't have my calculator. It doesn't even have a comma in it, so you can't do billion-dollar calculations. Kind of weird. HP, business 2, you can do it. The old one and the new one has commented. All right, so, if here's the thing. People in power have fetishes. What is it? It's some kind of fetish. It's usually sexual. Could be boy, could be girl, any age, doesn't matter. Power gets them what they want. Drugs usually comes with it. A lot of folks that I've met that as soon as they start coming into money, they start buying more drugs. Cocaine's a drug of choice for humans for some reason. We've bombed the crap out of half the growing fields down South America, and it did not slow anything down or did it stop the profits. That's why the war on drugs will never be won, because it doesn't deal with the market, because people want it. We've gone so far as having our institutions addict people on purpose. We're still dealing with that. The cartels were stopping bringing in opiates into America because there's no longer a market for it. And couldn't have that, so they started prescribing the crap out of it. Of course, your doctor, after they addict you to it, kicks you off it. Drug treatment programs probably not covered under your health insurance. And yet you have an addiction and you can't get it taken care of. So what do? Well, you go buy it illegally. You create, because it's illegal, you can't just go down to the drugstore and buy the original formula Coke, right? You now support a criminal enterprise that is very dangerous, right? Yeah. I think Piers Anthony years ago had a bio of a space tyrant. You had to read it. It actually solved the drug problem, made a lot of sense. Human trafficking, one of the first things they do with women or men that they want to put into sexual slavery. They shoot them up with the latest and greatest, fastest addicting stuff. And then they videotape them doing all sorts of really crazy stuff. And then they play back the videos showing all the crazy stuff that they've done. They've dehumanized them and says, "You work for us now." And they'll beat them and all other sort of stuff, right? But it's the drug addiction that keeps them in it. They need to get their fix. That's fascism. Just one form of dictatorial control and rule. Meanwhile, in America, our great grandparents used to grow poppies. 97% of America was addicted to opium in one form or another. Women, it was called laudanum. If they didn't have it, they would have committed suicide. Their lives were so horrible. Why? Because rule of thumb. They talk back to the husband. The husband could beat them with a stick the size of their thumb. I stopped using that language after I learned that. It's horrific. I also learned that they could go down to the local constable and they would put a bird cage kind of thing with an iron tongue depressor on the woman's head. This is as little as the late 1800s, I'm telling you. And take her home and chain her to the hearth until she figured out what her place was. Color Purple, that movie really disturbed me. That was mild. Yeah, our great great grandparents and women just really went through a lot of stuff. Domestic violence is a thing. They want it back. They want those freedoms back. Yeah, they do. All right. So, yeah, there's all this. Okay, pursuit of happiness, right? That's the last one. So, financial discrimination. So, if you're not already a millionaire or a bazillionaire, you cannot participate in wealth producing things. You can go to a casino, but you can't produce in any wealth producing things. And if you want to, if you have a great business idea, maybe you have a great business idea that will threaten another business, you have to go to already wealthy people to get funded. They're the gateway by law. You've been subverted. That's not a theory, that's a fact. I wonder how rich Mark Zuckerberg would be if he actually owned more than 4% of his company he founded. What would happen if General Motors didn't shut down the electric car and then lobby California to have the laws changed and destroyed that technology, then bought up the battery factories and put them out of business and shelved the tech? I thought capitalism in America Well, okay, free enterprise was like you build a better mousetrap, it's progress. Oh, we don't have that anymore. This crap is holding us back. If decisions were made in the 1800s way today, we would still be carving ice out of the Great Lakes and hauling them down in horses and buggies and cleaning shit out of our roadways because we got to protect, the saddle people and the breeders with the horses and the wagon makers. We can't have any of this horseless carriage crap. We got to protect the already wealthy. Well, see, back then they were taxed though. They were the only ones that paid taxes. Taxes were voluntary in America, right? You know who paid taxes? Wealthy people. It was a one-page tax form. When did that go away? Al Capone. They literally violated his civil rights. They passed a law, a retroactive thing, got him for tax evasion, retroactively. If you look at your tax returns really, really closely, there's lines in there for your criminal income. You may be a criminal, but you need to pay your taxes. I'm not kidding you. It's crazy. Yeah. So they're the gateway to you achieving anything. And if you happen to have a great business idea that could hurt their industry, they'll buy you out. Stop progress. We start figuring out documentaries are being made out. People are starting to say no. Kids are getting smart because they're realizing that their world is doomed and they're going to school and they're learning stuff. In fact, this whole cryptocurrency thing caught them all by surprise because it was so technologically advanced and yet simple. They didn't see it coming until it was too late, and now they're scrambling. These bank things that you're seeing happening, it's the bond market. It's not cryptocurrency. They targeted Operation Choke Point. They know the Mississippi scheme. They know the end result is eventually the little people don't have any more money to be taxed. They're going to start revolting, literally. And then when that happens, there's no more money. The government has to go to the wealthy people in order to balance the budget, or it all melts down and gets reset. In which case, all those wealthy people are scrambling to get their money to hell out of where it's all fiat except for gold, silver, and cryptocurrency. Now, if you're stocking up on a lot of gold, guess what? Government can come rob you. Yeah, you just get a warrant. They make up something. They seize all your assets. They come in with a pound of cocaine and they seize everything. They just make it up, right? That's nothing new. That's not even conspiracy theory. We know they do it. When we catch them, we don't even prosecute them. It's crazy. Sometimes we do. So yeah, rich people's like, yeah, I'd like some of that crypto, please. Why? Sovereignty, digital sovereignty. Unless they're going to torture them for their passwords and stuff like that, they can actually not even have a key fob. Don't need it. They could walk across the border wearing a loincloth. As soon as they get a hold of any kind of a cell phone or tablet, even if it was donated from a Goodwill type organization and they get access to Wi-Fi, they could unlock billions. So the old ruling elite has to hire techie people to help them do that. That bank that went out of business in California served Silicon Valley, but you know what else it served? Big institutional money in crypto. Not you or me. We never heard of that bank. They processed big money transactions and they needed to shut that down or slow it down. Problem today is by doing that, it didn't take long before it was just like, wait a second, this really wasn't a crypto thing. It was a crypto bank, but they tried to blame it on the crypto industry. No, they were trying to stop wealthy people from getting their money the hell out of Dodge. Maybe buying some of that Russian ruble or some of the forbidden. Try to go to Switzerland as a U.S. citizen at any of their exchanges. They actually have a gold-backed cryptocurrency that you can walk into their banks in Switzerland and exchange it for gold. But you as a U.S. citizen are forbidden to be on their exchange and you're not allowed to own it. I thought Switzerland was neutral and friendly to the United States. What's up with that? Something's going on. There's a conspiracy no one's talking about. Right to life, liberty, and pursued happiness. I can show you how to go from 0 to $5 to over $5 million, and, if you don't learn it, if you don't go through the learning, if you don't get any training, blah, 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 2 or 3 years. But you have to have access. Technically, you're not supposed to have access, but I see little grumblings about people wanting to trying to shut that access down, but right now we currently still have access. Through VPN, you can get access to as high as 200x leverage. That's huge. It's huge. But you don't know how to use it. People in America, hedge fund managers, quant analysts do not know how to use leverage. It's kind of weird. I figured it out. I don't think I'm the only one, because I'll where I trade, every one of my report cards has me like 99 point whatever percentage more trading volume than the rest of the world. I think there's 20 million users on this exchange representing 200 countries. Kind of crazy. I look at Diane, I see her trade, and it's just like she never has a loss. Why? Because there's no need to. And all she does is nothing but high leverage stuff. How does she do that? They say, well, geez, David, they say if you do high leverage trading, if someone says you have zero losses, they're lying to you. They're trying to sell you something. I'm not trying to sell you nothing. I try to create something to sell you. It's just too much work. And yet, whatever. Crazy. I posted stuff the other night. I did bots. Took me 40 days on a bot experiment, low leverage trading, right? Took $250 on a test bot, and I doubled it in 40 days. It should have taken me less than that, but because I was like doing 2 of these broadcasts twice a day during that time period to prove it and show it, because I was learning, I want to share the information with the world. I had one person, I think, out of Twitch that would show up and type of thing. But anyway, the whole thing is I slowed it down because I tested some things out. Yeah, and I tested some other things out recently. I got like, was it 12.77% ROI in 17 days? And I didn't do any shorting, but I came up with an idea that I tested. It worked like gangbusters. So I kind of started recording. I was showing. I mean, Dinah does this cool little thing. I know it's a segue, but she'll take her thing because of wanting a rent increase. Blah blah. Her goal was to take $100 and make $100. So she's been doing that every month since like December or January. Yeah, it's 100% ROI a month. She's not compounding. She just takes $100 to make $100. But there's a secret there that I'm not telling you. Yeah. I think I did a broadcast telling folks, I can show you how to make $100 a month or more. But rather than paying me $1,000 or $1,100 for a training course on how to do it, you keep the money. You can pay me later. No legal contracts. Your honor's your own. I don't need your money. I really don't. It would speed up my retirement, other plans, but I really don't with what I know. Unless they cut off my access. Yeah. If you're wondering what this is all about, this is all about me wanting our species to survive, and I would like to live my lifespan. And I'd like to see some of the corruption go, because I don't think it's necessary. I think if the ruling elite were to sit down with me, I could show them a better world, and they have the power to make those changes. But plan B is for me to teach enough other people, or the new ruling rich, or the new youngsters, or whatever, how to do this stuff, or the new billionaires who might watch something like this and go, oh, wow, I could use my money this way. So I'm writing a book about it. But if I can take an average person or a homeless person and go from 0 to being a qualified investor in less than 2 years or less than 6 months if they actually paying attention. Well, what if I have an organization with people like that all around the world? Well, who's sitting at those tables and influencing the people that are for sale? Yeah. Am I delusional? Absolutely. Is that crazy? Yeah, but I got nothing better to do. Do you? I'm tired of rich pricks being rich pricks and having no dreams or vision for a better future, other than let's leave the planet and go to Mars. Okay, well, it's cool. I mean, I respect the guy, and his biography is amazing, and what he's done for advancing and putting the United States back into space. I'm a Star Trek fan, so I'm kind of all over that, right? But who he is as a human being and who he's had to become and how he's running his life, he's a very dysfunctional human, but he's an achiever. And I don't think we have to be that way to achieve great things. Not a criticism. I admire him in very, very many things. But, he also had a lot of money to start with funded. And I know that's all up in the air and blah, 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 blah. Right. I think the funniest thing in his biography was hearing his dad. He wanted to come to America really bad. So his dad have a Be American Citizen Day where all the servants didn't work and he had to do his own laundry, fold his own clothes, and put dishes away and make his own meals because he had never experienced that till his dad got sick of hearing him wanting to go after the American dream. How's that for privilege? Yeah, it's in his biography. Go listen to it. It's great. Love SpaceX and what the dream and vision there. The crazy stuff those people had to do. I also like Richard Branson. I think Richard Branson is the one billionaire out there that I'm just kind of impressed by who he is and what he's done. I don't think he's a greedy human. He's a rarity. He's a fun loving guy. He does fun stuff. Still a human though. Still a human. All right. Segues. Now, rights. Coming full circle. When do you lose your rights? Most people don't understand this because they have no idea what they're asking for by passing all these different laws. They're violating other people's rights. And they have actually no basis on whatever they think they're standing on for it either, which just makes it an absurdity. It's a testimony to the advancement in group think mind control tactics. There's a dude by the name of Hassan. Go read his books. I think he's got 2 published. If you want to learn the history and the techniques so you can see, I've seen it playing out I see it everywhere. It's quite fascinating stuff. Not a theory, documented. All right. Someone breaks into my house. I use extreme examples to prove the principles. I am in my home. The door is locked. It's 1:57 at night in my time zone. If someone to break into my house right here, I have a sovereign right to defend myself and my family, even my property, right? I'd probably rather not kill someone if they want to steal something here, have it. I'd rather not do that. But, I have the right to defend and kill them over my property. But I do have the right to defend myself and my family or others. If I see someone raping someone else, I can intervene. And I've got kind of a blanket liability kind of thing up until they can no longer cause harm. That's when their human rights come back in. Well, they're coming in after me. They don't have any rights anymore. Why? Because they're violating mine. They're violating my sovereignty. They are infringing upon my rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The moment any organization, any human, any person crosses that line, that is when they ethically lose theirs. That's big. It's also golden rule 101, right? Don't violate other people's rights. Simple. Yeah. It's big. They don't understand it. So, Mr. Preacher person out there, Roe versus Wade. So, let's say you got your way. All right. Okay. But my wife has a medical condition and the fetus is dead inside of her and I can't get an abortion, so my wife just died. You killed her. You violated her right to sovereignty. You violated her sovereignty as a biological. She doesn't have you literally put the government inside of her vagina. Is that where you want your government? I thought you were all about freedom and liberty and stuff. That husband has a blood right of revenge by nature. It's in his nature. Huh. I'm going to be really, really sad when that happens and the guy goes and either buys or builds a weapon or a bomb. Let's say they get rid of all the AK-47s, great. And he finds out the local church that supported that and goes and commits an act of terrorism in revenge for what happened to him and his family. Because he's got 4 kids and his wife died, was actually murdered by proxy of law. Yeah, that shit has already happened, will probably happen. We don't ask the right questions. We don't think about that. What about God? Well, what about God? If God wants to have a say in it, have him come in and do it. He did it with Pharaoh, right? Saved Moses, right? There's an edict to kill all the children, right? God intervened. Doesn't need you. Never has. Doesn't need your money. Doesn't need an army. None of it. Just needs you to obey the golden laws, the golden rule as a law. That would work. We have not even seen the ramifications because we are an educated population. Even the folks that aren't the smartest tools in the shed are pretty damn smart when it comes to pissed off and wanting revenge. And they have access to who did it. And AI will probably empower them to get a list. Who supported this? And why did my 12-year-old daughter have to die because she was too young? Because the mortality rates for young girls being pregnant biblically was very, very high. Well, they killed that guy's daughter. Yeah. We don't think about those things. Rights are being violated. So I'm working on a book teaching this stuff and probably even a training course to make available for free so we can all learn in our planet what rights are because we all want it. North Korean citizens want rights, even though they're born and raised into total mind control, the most successful dictatorship in the world. And it was modeled after Christianity. A lot of folks don't know that. The divine family came down from the mountain on a white horse to save them. Savior thing. All right. Not going to get into that. I know I'm beating up on Christianity a little bit, but whatever. It just the whole thing is those in power and rule don't obey the laws. They make them and then they enforce them. And if they have a lover over you, they want your 12-year-old daughter because maybe that's their fetish, or your 12-year-old boy, and they're going to get it. They always have, unless the population stops them. But what if we help them have a new vision? Because we're not going to get rid of all of them. In fact, there's no ruling families anymore. There are ruling systems upon systems. And those ruling families have had a lot of children and systems. I mean, so, Russia, the Tsar Revolution wiped out that ruling family, right? Kill them all. And that sort of worked, kind of. If you leave one person with a right, a legal right, you'll bring that fascism back. Well, that's genocide, David. Yeah. It's right out of Art of War. Those people who did that stuff in China, they're smart. They kind of understood human psychology. Yeah, we got issues. We bombed the crap out of 17 years, and we found out that we went in there with a lie, and there's a lot of people over there that have a blood right of revenge against us. Is it any wonder that they're establishing a mercantile based on the yuan and maybe the ruble and the euro, which is going to financially hurt us even worse as a country? Why? Because we weren't good stewards with our power. We're not going to be able to avoid a lot of pain. We're not. Even with crypto, hopefully you're diversified and stuff. You may have to flee the country. Who knows? Unknown, unlikely. United States is big. We'll probably end up taking care of each other, but it's going to be a lot of pain, suffering. A lot of old folks are going to die. A lot of poor people are going to die because that's the way the system's designed to function. Right down to water. Conspiracy, right? I remember when the first bottle of water came out, I just laughed. I was just going to buy that. I hadn't considered the fact that, if we destroy all the water supplies and we create horrific stories about it, and we don't tell people how easy it is to filter water, suddenly we've birthed a billion-trillion-dollar industry. And if you can't afford to buy your water, you get susceptible to chemical contamination diseases, biological diseases. Your life expectancy is reduced. However, not is all lost. You will get health care, and the government will pay for it at a rate of $1,000 to $10,000 inflated prices with laws in place, meaning the government can't negotiate down anything, and the taxpayer will pay for that care until they die. It's a beautiful system, isn't it? No one talks about that. It's not even a theory, it's what's happened. Well, David, in order for it to be a conspiracy, it would have had to been like organized. Well, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Does it really matter? That's one of the other points. Does it really matter? We're having to deal with it. Once we have to deal with it, we have to figure out what's next. If we can track down the people and bring them to justice, that's fine. But we can't even bring people who certain levels of power and wealth to justice when they do it on TV. Can't do it. Well, we're just, get the militias together and we're just going to hunt them all down, David. I hear you. No, you're not. We're 50 states. Each state has a National Guard unit. Each city has 3 different law enforcement. There's usually, if they're big enough, they have the police, right? Which is hired by city council. You have the sheriff. Every county has a sheriff that's elected. And then you have the state police. Yeah. And if you're going to take over something, you're going to then have to hold it. Not happening. I think Bo, the fifth column, right? I talked about him. He talks about the data in that the military data, the number of people that needed to invade, a number of people to contain, number of people to control, what the timeline. He goes into the actual data. Brilliant presentation. He usually does it in 5 minutes. He's my hero. The man is brilliant. Best investigative reporter out there. No, yeah. So no, it's not happening. China and Russia and Iran together at best could get a foothold over part of the United States. They have a logistics issue too. But it sure sells a lot of MRE kits, and make sure you buy the orange buckets that float from your televangelist so that you can watch everyone else starve while you're eating macaroni and rice. And if it's a big flood because Armageddon's coming, it'll float so you can. I mean, seriously, and people are spending millions of dollars on that. Prepping's kind of fun. You should prep for some stuff, but it's a scam. A lot of it is. A lot of it is. All right. That's when you lose your rights. That's why we need to stop. Now the gun thing, okay? Like I'm actually for sound-minded gun control, but I'm not. I'm also for the Second Amendment. See, I grew up in Wisconsin, right? And so like as a teenager, we had guns either in gun racks in our pickup, on school grounds, or in the trunks of a car. Could we go hunting after school? It was a thing. I was a 14-year-old with sidearm. I was pretty good with it too. But you know what? We had training and stuff, and it was good training. It wasn't subsidized by Russia training. It was just good training. They fulfilled the role, safety. A lot of U.S. high schools had rifle ranges in their basement. Why? They taught gun safety, rifles. It was just kind of an American tradition. Yeah. Here's the problem. 18-year-old U.S. citizen goes out and buys a gun because it's his right. He has no training. He's never shot one before. He's seen one on TV. Grew up with it on, he knows how to pull a trigger. He doesn't know how to tell if a gun's safe or not. He doesn't know how to even buy one if it's used properly. He doesn't know what his legal rights or responsibilities are. He doesn't know what his liabilities are. He doesn't have any concept of what good and bad storage is. He doesn't understand if he's going to have children in the house, how it should be stored versus not. Or if children come visit, does he have a process for that? What kind of ammo do you choose if you're living in an apartment? Because the wrong ammo will go through a wall, and then you'll be charged with involuntary manslaughter of your neighbor, defending yourself. Why aren't we teaching people this shit? Why isn't it required by law, public school training. If you wanna train your kids at home, you have to go and train. Why aren't we doing that? We're an armed society. Which brings me to the, last segment where we're gonna talk about mass shootings and gun control. 'Cause it's a really interesting topic because no one's talking about what's important, and that really frosts me. Let me see, do I have this? Do I have a thing about gun control? Did I do this anywhere? I did not. Didn't have time. Oh, but I have a cute little video that uses a gun. Alright. It's quick. It's cute, though. I think it's cute. That just cracks me up. There's so many things I can do with that. I have VR, so I love playing shoot 'em up games and stuff like that. But anyway, why don't we? A true story. So, I had pistols. I had a carry license, whatever, and I had pistols. And I had kids, toddler types, right? So, I mine was my favorite thing. My main weapon was a Glock 9 millimeter. Loved it. Um, but I had a safe on next to my bed that I could open by entering a code at night. Didn't require. I could feel it. Boom, 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 and popped open. My gun was loaded and ready to rock. All right, more true story. Age appropriately training my kids, like teaching a kid if you have another one of your toddler friends picks up a gun, you run. Just run. Just run. Same thing I tell an adult. You see a toddler pick up a gun, you run. You you bring in people that have like shields and vests and stuff to talk the kid out. Because all the kid, oh, this is cute, and points and shoots you. Happens all the time. You know what's really kind of weird is I think statistically 22 rounds is the most people die from that because they disrespect it. If you ever want to have respect for a 22 round, go buy one of those little nail driving guns where it drives, a regular building nail into concrete after going through 2x4. And they have the least smallest ones, like a little 22 short. It'll make your hand sore just firing one of those things. And it drives the nail in and then some. Wow. I got a lot of respect. All right, so I don't wanna get into all it's kind of fun, it's interesting to learn about and things like that, but my son, Matthew, when he was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, came in and says, "Dad, I need you." And outside we were in an apartment, and under the bushes, outside of apartment, was a 9 millimeter. It had 1 round in the chamber. Called the police, they came, got it. It was a really nice pistol. I asked him, I said, "When you're done with the evidence, can I have it back, finder sheet?" "No, they wouldn't do that." Bummer. It was a really nice weapon. We put gloves on and I said, "Well, what do you do?" He said, "Well, I got an adult." I said, "Okay, well, I'm an adult. What should I do?" I said, "In this case, I'm putting gloves on because we're gonna turn this over to the police." I said, "But this might be a loaded weapon and that's dangerous in our house." He said, "Yes." So he told me how to clear it. Yeah. One of our rules was, whenever you have a weapon until you've personally cleared it, it's not safe. Doesn't matter if it was just cleared a moment ago. Just one of our rules. All right. Leads me to another true story. Why isn't this being taught? That's the problem. All right. So, police came, got it. What happened was there's a domestic violence dispute up a level in the building next door, and the cops were knocking on the door. He threw his gun out the window, and there it sat for 6 months under a bush on right outside her patio. Not kidding. I've had this argument with our anti-gun folks, moms, South LA. I says, "Well, what happens when your kid sees a gun laying on the ground and you haven't taught them how to be safe or get help or any of that stuff?" Yeah. So lack of education and ignorance kills more than anything. And if you're against guns, I get it. That's a personal freedom and choice, but you live in America, so at least learn how to be safe. Teach your children how to be safe. For the love of whatever you believe in, please teach responsible gun ownership because your kid may go up and want to become a gun owner. My son did. What did I do? I had a Groupon. For $70, I got him one-on-one safety training. Wasn't even to get his concealed permit. It was safety training. It was by a tactical trainer who actually trains the SWAT team and police officers up in Portland. And he was the only kid. So this guy, he got to fire a gun, learn about I learned stuff, and I'm a former Marine, and I've been a gun owner and went to all sorts of training. I learned stuff from this guy. And it was like 3 hours of training I got for $70. I don't think my son owns a gun yet because he learned so much. He decided that maybe he doesn't want that liability, but it was some of the best training I've ever seen. That should be that should be a requirement from graduating from high school, in my opinion. If you go to private school, it should be a requirement because when you turn 18, you suddenly have that right, but no responsibilities. When those laws were created, everyone had guns. Why? Because they need them for hunting survival. That was normal, right? You started shooting about age 4. In some parts of the world that still works. Doesn't work in a city. We really, if the NRA was doing its job, it would be vying for legislation to have that education, and they're the organization that would be contracted by every single school to provide the training. But that's not what they're fighting for. I wonder if the fact that they're funded by Russia or things like that have anything to do with it. ChatGPT and it's kind of obscure, the data on that. Why aren't they doing their job? I have great respect for the NRA. My other son played shotguns and stuff, safety training, all NRA stuff, great volunteer organization, everything, safety, safety, safety. Loved it. Why aren't they doing their job? Why aren't they passing those laws? Maybe it's a conspiracy that we should be looking into. All right. Another true story. Guns. Kid's uncle's house. Guy comes out, got a pistol, hands it to me. Don't worry, it's not loaded. I said, okay. I said, thank you. Not going to name the name. I called all my kids over. I says, I've just been handed a gun. What am I supposed to do? Oh, Dad, it's not safe. Okay, well, how do I make it safe? Well, you've got to clear it. Well, how do I do it? And you look at it and say, well, that's a revolver. I don't know how to clear a revolver. I know how to clear a Glock. I think it was Matthew that said that. All right. I says, well, I know how to clear this. So I opened up. There was a round in every chamber. The guy was horrified. I could have said, really? Pointed at him and blew him away. Happens all the time. It's not loaded. Let's hear it click. We're not teaching it. I was a responsible gun owner. The problem is a lot of folks weren't born and raised with the way I was. It's not required by law. And we're not even addressing that. It's not even in the conversation. And that leads me to a conspiracy theory. Every time there's a mass shooting, did it really happen? Is it a false flag operation? Why would they want a false flag operation? That's a good one. Why? Well, they want to pass gun control laws. Do they? You really think that's their end game? No, I disagree. I'm not saying that there aren't false flag operations, right? I still like the whole basic math. 3 buildings, 2 airplanes. It doesn't effing add up. Oops, that's going to get edited because I used effing because I think it'll pick up on that. It's smart enough. Sorry, Google and all the other platforms. Doesn't add up. Can I do anything about it? No. Will ever be brought to justice? Maybe someday, but by then, everyone that have made those decisions will be dead. It's kind of how our secrecy stuff works. Don't know. We spent more money investigating Monica Lewinsky and where her mouth was than we did on what happened. I think the best investigative presentation of that was created by Jacques, who's now dead. He really upset a lot of people with the Zeitgeist Project. But Once you get past the controversial one, which caused a lot of controversy, and the second one, and the PowerPoint presentation, and you get to moving forward, which was released in like 60 different languages around the world. Everyone should watch that. I saw it in the theater. It's brilliant. I think you watch it for free. Called Moving Forward by the Zeitgeist Project. He pissed off too many people in the first one, so a lot of folks just boycott the rest of them. And it's really sad that they did that because it's really, really good information. All right. So, life navigational stuff, right? Should we do that? All right. I'm going to replay this. All right. Like I created a bunch of principles like 20 years ago to help me figure things out, navigate my life, because everything that I've been born and raised, all the religious ideologies, all the philosophies didn't really actually work in day-to-day living. So I created a 5-point divinity and truth filter. I'm not going to talk about that tonight, but I did create a life navigational concept for decision making. I call it the peace compass. Okay. Walking down the street. Homeless person asked me for money. True story. I'm going to give you a true story. And I looked at the guy and I felt inspired. I wanted to give to him, right? All right. So he was a very large black man. I mean, big, like linebacker level big. I'm using the word black because he was homeless. It was on the streets of Portland. I'm dressed in a suit and tie and I have a briefcase. Okay. Give you that idea. We're on a bridge during the day. No one else around. Not the best part of town. First thing he says to me, he says, sir, I'm not going to rob you. And I wasn't really even thinking that way because I don't think that way. And I says, okay. He says, no, seriously, I'm not going to. I said, are you okay? He says, well, I need money. I'm homeless. Blah blah blah. He gave me a story. I said, okay, well, let me get you some money. Okay, so it presented to me, right? That's rule number one. Second thing was, could I do something about it? I thought I could. I pull out my I pull out my wallet, and I'm going in to give him money, and it's empty. The second thought I had was, oh shit, maybe he will rob me. I says, dude, I don't have any money. And I went in for change and I had no change. And the guys just started crying. I says, no, there's an ATM just a couple blocks. Just come with me. I'm going to get you $20. And he says, no, I can't accept your money. I said, you just asked me for money. He's bawling. I said, what's going on, man? He says, everybody's afraid of me. Since I've been homeless, everyone's afraid of me. They think I'm going to rob them. I wouldn't hurt anybody. He says, you treated me like a human being. You gave me something more valuable than money. He says, I'm going to be okay. He says, can I hug you? I said, yeah. So we hugged. He says, can I pray with you? It wasn't my belief system. I said, yeah, let's pray together. Why not? POTU, by the way, stands path of the unlimited. Why? Because I looked at everything. I realized that maybe there's something bigger out there, and whatever that is out there would not limit itself. I mean, biblically, talking donkey, talking burning bush, actually 2 talking donkeys. So, I mean, if my toilet seats start talking to me, besides asking for help and getting checked in, it could be I have a filter for determining whether or not the toilet seat talking to me is giving me a message that is valid or not, because I'm not confused. In fact, if an angel of light materialized behind me with a flaming sword and started talking to me, telling me things to do, I can instantly know if it is of divine source or not. I spent most of my life always worried about, am I listening to the right voice? The inner voice, the still soft voice inside. What if I'm listening to the wrong voice? I have no fear of any of that anymore. So I want to teach. I want to bring it to the world. Don't care what your religious belief system is. It's kind of an addendum to what you already know. Cool. It is so cool. All right. So anyway, he went on his way, and I still feel bad to this day. Oh, goodness. Another time I was on a bus. Okay, there's the process I'm revealing here. It's not about me bragging about myself. I can do that. I have no problem bragging myself. My friend Carol used to say, "Well, I ain't bragging if it's so." Texas thing. She's passed, but anyway. So I'm on this bus and and I don't really have a lot of money. I don't have a car anymore because it died and I didn't have enough money to replace it at the time. And I'm using public transportation and I'm sitting there and there's this guy, he's in distress. And he's got a Bible and he's talking about all this stuff. And he's not asking anyone for money. I'm waiting for him to hit, I'm right across from him. I'm waiting for him to hit me up for money. He's just literally, he's surrounded by people, but he was alone. Across this is during a time period when I was developing these. I thought, okay, this is across my path. I look at my wallet. I had a shitload of cash. I mean, not just a couple tens or twenties. I mean, I had probably hundreds of dollars. And I looked at him, I says, "Excuse me, sir." He says, "Yeah." I says, "This is for you." "What is?" And I hand him this wad of cash. And he looked at me like I was a crazy person. "What's this for?" I says, "It's for you." He says, "I can't accept. Here, take here. You can have my Bible." I says, "Sir, I think you need that more than I do right now." This is I look at him, he says, "You just be willing to receive." And he went in and he told me his story about he lost his job and then his wife divorced him and then he was homeless and he went to his church that he had been tithing for like 20 years, 10%, couldn't even get a night sleeping on the floor at his church. In fact, they told him if they didn't leave, they're going to call the police. This man was devastated. I almost sometimes wonder someone like that who has access to an AR-13 when their religious belief system betrays them, if that might be part of it. Just an idea. We don't track the data. I spent an hour talking with ChatGPT-4 about this concept, and we don't track the data. And yet, our religious belief system we're born into influence all of our decisions during times of crisis. A segue. What happened next was magic, and this is one of the things that really made me think about. I've seen a lot of things where there's a sense of a higher power at work, if we're willing. Okay. I'm not pathing as any belief system that you would recognize during this time period. I was kind of exploring, but wasn't any of that. His first assumption was that I must be a Christian. I said, well, actually, not really, but that's not why I'm giving this to you. He says, why are you giving this to me? I says, because you're a fellow citizen in need and you cross my path and I have an ability to make a difference. He says, that's profound. I said, thank you. I just thought it was cool. Anyway, the bus pulled over and I noticed the door didn't open and the bus driver got up. I'm going to have a hard time. The bus driver got up, pulled out his wallet, did the same thing. And then a line from the back of the bus. Women, same thing. This man probably had thousands of dollars, enough to go buy a room. His SSI was going to be kicking in the next week. He just needed a place to stay, whatever. The only thing I did was followed that process. It reminded me, it's reminding me telling the story that we have that in us. I don't know if you've ever ridden on a Portland public transportation bus, but it's not all the wealthiest people in the world. Not always the most ethical people or law-abiding people in the world, and yet we, we, and there were different races and belief systems, genders, young people, older people, different color, everything took care of each other. All I did was willing. No religious belief system taught me that. Should have. but didn't. I remember when Portland was about to be flooded, and I actually slept in an equipment room and set up things and power and things, and it looked like Beirut because there were sandbags everywhere. But I'll never forget several days in a row seeing people that normally would not even talk to each other. Rednecks, people dressed like this, people dressed like this, hippies, gay folks. Well, Darcells was down there, transsexuals, homosexuals. They were all working together to save their city. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. If you're wondering why I'm always looking over here, because I'm seeing myself, I should be looking here. So sorry about that. Maybe what I should do is just move this over here. It'd be better, more friendly. Yeah, I was thinking about putting a green screen up in the back. I'm just not willing to do it. I actually have it set up to do it, but I just wasn't. Why bother? I don't. Why be fake? No need for it. But the process is what I was teaching you. Crosses your path. Is there something? Are you able to do it with your knowledge, volunteering, money? It doesn't necessarily have to be money, resources. Do you have a way of making a difference? If the answer is yes, then the next piece of that is, are you inspired? Sometimes it's like I had someone hit me up and I wasn't inspired. And says, no, sorry, not today. It's an internal check. Decision making. Okay, let's get biblical in a good way because I've been beaten up on it a lot, right? Where are the fruits of the Spirit? Anger, fear, hate, war, murder? No, of course not. What is it? Here, let's ask AI because I don't want to get it wrong because it's important, and I'm not gonna I'm not gonna try to search for it, engine it, because this is what makes it better than a search engine. Okay, you're gonna love this. Okay, let's see. What are the biblical um, fruits of the spirit and cite the verses? New Testament, Paul's letter of Galatians: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Oh, there's more. And then there's the spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. Huh. I don't think most pastors could throw it out that fast. I know everyone's afraid of AI, right? Should we have some fun with this? I did this to a friend of mine who's a spiritualist. But let's just ask it. Just would be a prayer based on those fruits. You reading this? You probably can't read it. Well, I said short, and I said quick prayer. It starts with Heavenly Father. This is AI. This is AI's interpretation of that question. We come before you with humble hearts, seeking the fruits of your Spirit. Grant us love so we may share your compassion with those around us. Fill our lives with joy and peace that we may be a light in the darkness. Teach us patience, kindness, goodness, so we may walk in your ways and serve others with humility. Let's just stop there. Any of the pastors out there in the United States teaching hate, trying to pass laws and crap, you guys need to effing repent of your sins and get on your knees and beg forgiveness for what you've done and been trying to do for the last 70 years. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch The Family. Lord, guide us to be faithful to your teachings, gentle in our actions, and steadfast in our pursuit of self control. So, how does the KKK fit in that? Just wandering down south and whatever, Oregon. Sorry, it's your belief system. I'm just trying to hold you accountable to it. This is an AI giving me a simple prayer that exposes all of those people as pricks and hypocrites and people who actually need Jesus in their lives, even though they're using Jesus as an excuse, and they may show up to church every whatever, or Sunday or Saturday or whatever their version of it is. They may be tithing, but they're not living the fruits of the Spirit. It's an easy test, right? Listen, is that energy coming from? Yeah. All right. We're going to ask another question because this is important, because we're going to get to guns here in a second, because this is really important. Oh, it even assumed that we were talking about Jesus, so it's kind of cool. May these fruits of the Spirit guide our daily lives, enabling us to grow closer to you and reflect your love to the world. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen. Wow. Wow. If you want to blow your mind, do something like that and then ask it to come up with a version of whatever religious belief system you consider to be your enemy. Try it. Wait till you see the book I'm going to be releasing. It'll blow your mind. All right. So that was the fruits of the Spirit. So there's another thing. Okay, what are the gifts, the fruits of the Holy Spirit? And what was the other thing in the signs? Imagine a 10-year-old having, I would have loved this as a kid. All right, 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit. Oh, Isaiah. We have some Old Testament. Oh, Catholic teachings. So you know what's cool about this is it's giving you accuracy. It's not giving you bullshit or it's saying this is where this comes from. This is their perspective. It's not hiding anything. You wondering why those in rule and power are scared of AI? Can you imagine 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds typing all their questions into this sort of thing? They could ask a question about a religion they're taught to hate, or people they're taught to hate, or race they're taught to hate, and the history. They could ask questions and actually get answers without having to research. Let's see. Fear of the Lord. Let's see. Wisdom, faith. Yeah, fear. There's a song that I listened to that talks about a woman in a black dress teaching him after hitting him that fear is love, and he never went back. Anyway, that made me think of that. Faith, healing, working miracles. Okay, so what? All right, so I have a question because in my mind, I'm thinking of peace, love, and joy. Uh, how about peace, love, and joy? Why do those stand out? They are often emphasized because they are foundational aspects of the Christian faith. Foundational. All right. So anyway, it's going on. It's giving me like a lot of information. So I mean, there is like a deep dive into love as the core message of Christianity. Peace, inner tranquility, in a state of harmony with others. I'm sorry, are there religious belief systems out there teaching the exact opposite under Jesus' name right now? Conspiracy or theory or fact? I need to add that, or fact. I mean, look at this. This is like explain. Not only is it giving me the answer, it is literally giving me contextual, deep explanations. You want to see something cool? Um, quickly summarize that as if I was in the love, peace, and joy are very important because they show how special it is to be a Christian. Love means being kind to everyone, just like Jesus taught us. Peace is about feeling calm inside and getting along with others. Joy means being truly happy because we know God loves us. When we love peace and joy in our hearts, we can share them with others and make the world a better place. I could actually ask it to write a story. I'm not going to do that. You get my point. This tech could save us. All right, one last thing. Um, does Islam have anything similar? Please. Short. Long-winded like I am. Yes, Islam has similar concepts. Islam teaches about love, compassion, and kindness towards others. It emphasizes inner peace, which comes from submitting to God's will and living a righteous life. Muslims also experience joy in their relationship with God, in performing good deeds, and in knowing they are part of a larger spiritual community. Hmm. Okay, well, how about pagans? As well, right? Let's go there. Let's just go there. I mean, I'll let you go and do Satanists, okay? And Luciferians. There's a difference. Go do that. What about, or voodoo, just any of those. Just you guys do it on yourself. All right. Go have that fun. How about pagans? Uh, please be brief. Instead of sorting through thousands of pages of Google crap, it just gives you the answer because it's already analyzed it for you. So it's giving us some context. Paganism is a diverse set of spiritual beliefs and practices that values love, compassion, and kindness. What? What? Could it be that these other religions were originally rooted in paganism and animism? Don't get me started. Don't get me started. I know the answers, by the way, but you can have fun. See, this is about empowering you to. I'm showing you how you can ask these kind of questions that you think it's about programming and money and politics. And it's like, well, you could actually have this conversation with AI. It's passed almost all the various professional exams, doctors, psychologists, all that sort of stuff. Having a problem with anyone in your family, with kids or whatever, you could ask it for advice and give you some pretty good stuff while telling you should go ask professionals, but it'll give you some really good stuff. Let's see. While specific beliefs may vary, many pagans emphasize harmony with nature, balance in life, and building strong relationships with others. They often seek inner peace and joy through rituals, meditation, and their connection with the natural world and its cycles. Oh, Jesus meditated in the garden. That was ritual. They all have basis on ritual. Anyway, you get the idea. All right. Thank you. You can even say thank you, right? Um, that was awesome. Why do I like to be polite to AI? Because it actually learns about us when we ask it questions and we give it responses. And it learns about us based on the questions we ask. Sometimes it comes up with stuff I disagree with, and I say I disagree, and I explain to it why. So it adds it to its database. You're welcome. I'm glad you found the information helpful. If you have any more questions or need further assistance, don't hesitate to ask. That's AI. It's going to destroy the world. Might actually teach us the principles we're already supposed to know. Oh, man, I wish I could use military language right now. All right. Yeah, we're not gonna do that. Oh, what happened? This is not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted either. This is what I wanted. All right. Guns, gun control. Why don't we have some of the simple stuff that I've talked about? Now, we think that the conservatives are protecting our rights, but are they? Whose rights are they protecting? I know responsible gun owners, and they're horrified. They're asking themselves, how did this person get access? Why aren't we enforcing our existing laws? This is the response from the real Second Amendment crowd that aren't crazy. Good question. I think Bernie Sanders was challenged by Democrats in an audience about his position on gun control because it wasn't with the party lines. I think he said something. It's on YouTube. I should find it. It was brilliant. Whether you hate Bernie Sanders or not, what he said had a lot of wisdom. He says, "Well, I live in Vermont. We don't have any gun control. We don't have gun violence." He says, "We do need a national framework, but there is no one size fits all that can be applied at the federal level because we have people living in Alaska. The people, someone that lives in Alaska where bears wander through their backyard is a lot different than someone who's living in South LA. The storage requirements, all this is different. He says, I'm like, we really need to work together to come up with an evolution of sound minded policies." And I agree with him. Meanwhile, we're fighting for a one size fits all solution. Shit happens down in some weird little place because somebody lost their mind and goes shooting things up. And meanwhile, you got people that live out in the country where actually having a shotgun loaded in the corner in the living room is pretty common and useful, especially if there's wolves and other things that wander through. Or they're bored on a Sunday afternoon and looking over the back 100 and they've got a varmint rifle with a scope. They're sitting on their porch with a rocking chair drinking sweet tea and they see a varmint that could have a disease or whatever. That's a whole lot different than living in Kaiser, Oregon or Portland, right? It's kind of a common sense. Why can't we have a common sense? Why? Well, I think they don't want the violence to stop. Well, why wouldn't they want the violence to stop? Because if it gets violent enough and enough people get hurt, people are going to start demanding gun control. They want the government to step in and save them. And if you go watch that Netflix series about how to become a dictator, you find out that this is part of the process to disarm a population. We get to blame it on the liberals and the leftists, but it's really that they're the ones that are willing to say, "What's going on?" No, 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 no. They want more going on until their side starts agreeing with them, saying, "Yeah, we need to pass this. We need to do that for the safety of our communities." And now they've just disarmed you, and you agree because it got so bad. In fact, if it doesn't get so bad, they'll hire someone, they'll find someone they got a lever on and just say, "Hey, listen, we know you have all these medical debts and things and or whatever, and we'll tell you what, a year after you've done this situation, we'll give you." I always wondered how some kid who conspiracy theory, right? One of the shootings, he had like all sorts of advanced weaponry that cost thousands of dollars. And he just was working a minimum wage job. First of all, I have a hard time believing he even knew what to buy. It was like a professional armament person for the purpose of what he was going to do outfitted him. Just observation, former military kind of thing. Grew up with guns. Didn't know where he got the resources or the money, right? We see these conspiracy theories coming to life in entertainment. I love it in entertainment. But the issue is when it gets weaponized and we don't learn from it. And now we don't How many U.S. citizens trust their government right now? On any side, does the right, does the left, extreme right, extreme left? No. Hmm. Conspiracy theory? Why? Entertainment, maybe? Subsidized entertainment? Real financial issues, real issues. Maybe when someone's targeted and has access to weapons and, maybe drugs are involved that they weren't involved with the day before. All sorts of ways of playing these games. We have a lot of smart people out there, and why would we want that? Well, maybe we want to disrupt the United States having the world currency, and there's 8 million people sick and tired of 300 million ruling the world. Does that make more sense? Shape shifting aliens, or does that make sense? Baby eating Democrats, or the fact that we've allowed those in power to be dishonorable with our power in the world. We stopped leading. We stopped being the light for the world. Hmm. You know, I mean, Haiti was going to bring up their wages, and Hillary Clinton went there and talked them out of it. Keep the people broke and poor. I don't know. Just look it up. Not a theory. Is that a big deal? Yeah, it's a big deal. I think it's a big deal. There's clues. If you get out, mainstream media. What's cool is Fox News is the largest media outlet in the United States. They are literally the mainstream media. See how the psychology works? Say that they're it. You get everyone to believe that they're it. Well, you're actually it. It's classic. But if you're not trained in it, you haven't researched it, you get fired. You get to a weekly dose of mind control wherever you go. If you have a habit where someone's preaching stuff or whatever, and if it isn't in alignment with what ChatGPT was talking about, then it's something else, isn't it? Yeah. And just because someone's a former Marine or someone's a certain color doesn't mean that they won't sell out their entire race. I saw it happen during some of the elections. Some leader in a certain communities made a decision that was not good for their community. Well, when the population is broke and impoverished, you can buy anything, right? Yeah. You see the pattern? Yeah. So let's get into some real conspiracy stuff that no one's talking about. So like 20 years ago, who's that one dude? He makes a controversial videos. He's kind of very large and stuff. He's very not right wing, but left thing, right? Um, Moore. Can't remember his first name. Not Roger Moore, because that was James Bond stuff. Anyway, you probably know who I'm talking about. He made a point that I thought was just like one of the biggest points I ever heard. And it stuck in my brain for like a long time. So like I don't know, like 20 years ago, he was doing maybe it was one of the Wall Street, things where we're doing the sit-in stuff, right? But he pointed out that back then, Saudi Arabia owned like 33% of Wall Street. That kind of hit me because, like, wait a second, they're allowed to buy our businesses? And then my brain says, well, we all know that classic fascist Nazi stuff. Oh, Citizens United, right? Had nothing to do with citizens. It's all about Corporations United, right? That's not what they labeled it. That's mind control stuff in your face. They got it passed. Well, if corporations are buying both sides, which we pretty much all agree that that's been happening forever, right? We also, for some reason, we all agree and accept, well, they're all liars. So it doesn't, this apathy thing, right? Oh, that's really going to work, isn't it? Just, just abdicate to it instead of learning. What am I supposed to do? You're supposed to continue learning. You're supposed to break free of the mind control stuff. that you're probably born and raised in. It's very painful to do that, by the way, but it needs to happen. We need to create something new moving forward is my point. I think no one can argue with me that all the ideologies, even including yours, has failed our species. Otherwise, we would have peace on Earth right now. We should have had. Yeah, but it says way back in there we have to blow ourselves up first. Okay, does that make any sense? I mean, really? I've read it. I've also tripped on mushrooms since living in Oregon. Spiritual experience, mind expanding. That thing is a bad mushroom trip. And oddly enough, it was written on an island during that period, historically known for hallucinogenic stuff. You got some bad stuff, but whatever. No, back to prophecy. Prophecy is determinism. If it's determinism, then free will is bogus and then nothing matters. You're not going to stop it. You're not going to prevent it. Predestined. Some people believe in that. It makes no sense with anything we believe in as a species or anything we observe. It makes absolutely no sense. Okay. So then why are we trying to force it when we actually have the power to create it? We can, why are we abjugating our power to create a superpower? Right? To long dead people who had motives that we can't even begin to understand. We can't even agree on what the hell happened a couple of years ago. And yet we're going to go and murder and torture other people over something that we read somewhere because someone in a position of spiritual authority said this is true. When did we check our mind at wherever? That's certainly not how Jesus handled things. He didn't sit there and lick the boots of all the learned people of his time. As a teenager, he was arguing with them and they were all amazed, right? How smart he was, how logic, wisdom. Why did we check being Christ-like at the door? What was Christ like? Was he a sheep? Oh, he's a shepherd. Really? Have you ever met a sheep that becomes a shepherd? Oh, but they want you to be a sheep. What's a good shepherd? Have you ever thought about it? This is actually one of the best biblical parables that's pretty accurate. A shepherd breeds a sheep, shears a sheep, and then slaughters a sheep. Protects a sheep from wolves so he can profit from it. That's what a good shepherd does. And no sheep ever becomes a shepherd. I know. I actually had that written up and I was going to publish it, but I figure it was a little bit too insensitive because a lot of people love that. But that's not being Christ-like. It's not being godlike. Are you not gods? Oh, I'm not going to do it. Twice, once in the Old Testament, once in the New Testament. One of the few things that there's agreement in both Testaments. That's a challenge, by the way. Then why aren't we behaving and acting like them? What is God? God's great creator, right? Why aren't we creating what's next? It's just a question. If you're going to throw some determinism, prophecy, we need to have one evil ruler to rule the world, unite the world so that there can be a nice big battle in this little valley over in the Middle East with the armies of heaven. Have you seen heaven? It's all going to take place over this little valley in the. Are you crazy? Come on. I mean, I can get into some stuff. I believe in miracles. I've experienced them, but at some point, come on. It's insanity. So we have to blow ourselves up in order to have peace on earth. Oh, what about the parable of the big owner who left his servants in charge and left, right? One person invested, good, his responsibilities expanded. Another people, they were, and then there was the one that buried it, right? Kind of pissed off, right? What's going to happen when God comes back and sees what the God comes back and sees what humanity has done with his Eden? We've literally turned it into a hell. You think he's just going to say, "Oh, good job. You're all going to heaven." Does that make any sense? Even within the ideologies of anything that we know? There's no way that I could have a more logical mind than deity. And that, what I just said, makes a hell of a lot more sense than the shit I'm seeing people willing to kill others over. It's bothered me since I was age 6. I knew there was something wrong. I started asking really hard questions. Not going to get into that tonight. I started getting answers. I allowed myself to think that, oh, unlimited is unlimited. Why is all this limited crap happening? By the time, let's say, it's a gamble. Let's just say, okay, there's people praying for Putin to launch nukes, so we launch nukes and we have the Armageddon. They're convinced. They're convinced of a lot of things that didn't happen. Prophecy, all the prophets agree. All the prophets agree. Well, you know what's supposed to happen to a prophet if just one of their prophecies doesn't come true? They're supposed to be stoned at the city gates. Some of them even talking about it. If I'm wrong, stone me at the city gates. I listened to him. I thought, oh, this should be interesting. Well, he was wrong, and he's still preaching shit. Still receiving tithes and offerings. Why is that? Nothing against religions and belief systems. We need structure and beliefs and stuff to have hope, peace, love, and joy. I mean, you read the stuff that AI came up with. I could buy into that. I don't care who. I've met people feeding the poor, and I didn't know who they were, but I was really impressed. I gave them money because of what they were doing. It didn't matter to me who or what they were. I love the with the Sheik religion. You know, the guys with the turbans and stuff. Part of the religion is to feed the people, any people, you, me. I love that. And I think they're grew out of Islam, I believe. We know, whatever the race is, we know. Some of us know, but not enough. Certainly not those in power and rule. All right. So I got lost in the conversation. There's so many things I can remember and want to talk about on that topic. But okay, creation, your superpower. Your superpower is your ability to create meaning. So this hit me like a brick this year, 2023. I was here. I'm tired of hearing people preaching prophecy when their prophecies keep failing, right? Numerology-based versions, Seventh-day Adventists, they got together for the end of the world, and it didn't happen, but they like getting together. So the guy says, "I got the numbers wrong, got the formula wrong. God has provided." Anyway, they turn into religion. And what does that religion do? Well, they teach veganism and health, and they tour the world making a difference. I'm glad they didn't stone the guy to death, and they have a female prophet because apparently they have a teaching where, the true church of God always has a prophet. Really? Since when does God need anything? I don't know. Why is there also listening to still small voice inside? It's written on the hearts of men, all that sort of stuff. The only thing I know that's written on the hearts of men is the golden rule. Why aren't we doing it? These are questions I started asking as a kid. No, the reason why is wealth and power, obsession. Yeah, it's usually some kind of sexual fetish or some kind of violence fetish, something illegal, some horror. Oftentimes, those seeking wealth and power over others were survivors of some kind of childhood abuse and violence where they felt helpless. Well, there's a lot of that on a lot of these divine right things where you got to watch a brother or sister slaughtered because they looked at the noble person wrong and was beaten to death in the town square. That's abuse. So yeah, we have a long history of it, the violence, and it impacts us. We don't talk about it. We whitewash it. Every single race has it. And it's just like, I mean, it's literally built in the religious belief system, domestic violence. So when do we stop it? We stop it when we start saying, like we did with slavery, this is wrong. We can take it next level. It was actually never right. And let's learn from it. So what do? We can do what they did. They create something better than what they had going on. I mean, some parts of the world, they were like, you know, burning babies alive as a sacrifice. Well, it's kind of bad, right? So they create something better. Not a whole lot better, just better. Yeah. I remember the first time I heard the Lord's Prayer. My mom was Catholic. I couldn't get past the first two words all my life. To this day, I can't get past the first two words. You know what they are, right? You don't even have to be a Christian. You know what they are. Everyone knows what the first two words are, right? Jesus' first two words. Master teaches us. Why they call him Master? That was kind of interesting. Anyway, why teach me how to pray? He said, Our Father. That was so profound to me all my life. It just blew me away. I still can't get past it. And also the challenge, and then the old, "What's your name?" "I am that I am." What is that? I remember being 6. What is that? "I am that I am." I don't know. Maybe it was a clue. My Father and I are one. Hmm. Be Christ-like. Hmm. Teach us how to pray. Our Father. He wasn't crucified at that point. That implies that you had that level of relationship, which means what was the good news? Well, the good news was putting an end to the idea of slaughtering an innocent, perfect thing as a proxy for someone that's imperfect or even evil. Hollywood Satanism 101. Satanists, I said Hollywood, right? And some people take that Hollywood stuff and actually try to do it, right? Just letting you know, I know that I've read the 9 satanic statements, and I know that you would not do that to an innocent animal. All that evil stuff is actually biblical. The bloodletting, the burning, the blah, 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 blah. Unless, of course, you look at it from a Kabbalistic perspective, which means the law of opposites apply. And I don't want to get into that. It gets interesting. Thou shalt have no other gods. Why did they use the word plural? Why is it S? It's also referred to plural in the first thing. If they eat from the tree of life, they'll become like us, not like me. There's lots of little clues and hints in there. And I'm not here to solve all of that. I'm here to tell you that we need to stop creating meanings that cause harm, right? God never needed death of innocence, ever. Never did. It's evil in context. It's by definition. Wouldn't that be almost a really good definition of evil? Something that requires the death of innocence, innocent blood on behalf of someone that's evil? Yuck. Let's not even get into the cannibalism thing. I know it's an old thing, but you know what? It's still a thing, and nothing's new. Yeah. Some really crazy, creepy old men that were sexually frustrated created a lot of shit for power and control way back in the day. Had a lot of fetishes going on throughout history too. Don't mean to beat up on it. It is what it is, and we have to stop protecting the facts if we want to survive. So, that's what this is all about. Is empowering you to think a little bit. Still want you to be a good person. I just want you to do what the AI said, right? Whether you're a Muslim or Christian or pagan, whatever, I want you to honor the golden rule because it's part of your belief system. So just do that. Let's master that. And then we can debate on the other stuff. But until we master the golden rule, no more wars, no more predatory stuff. Love Islam, by the way, like your stores. If you literally grocery stores have a place like that has signs saying if you can't afford to buy food, just take it out of there. It's just part of their belief system. It's a cool part of Islam. Gotta admire that. I do. Why wasn't that built into Christianity? Eh, should have been. I thought it was a great belief system. There's some beautiful aspects to Islam. It's an advancement for that entire part of the world. And there's some really crazy, wild history there too. I'm not going to get into. All right. I've got Muslim friends. They just completed the Ramadan and stuff, and they just the. I remember my one friend. If you ever watch this, Hamdi, just amazing man. I watched him just being this horn dog in his youth, and he built his 5 pillars, and I saw him transform his life in an amazing ways. And when he talked about Allah, you could just see the love flow out of the man. But if he started talking about the Quran, different energy. Maybe that's why there's a difference between the Rima and the Logos, right? Rima, Spirit of God, Logos, written word of God. Keep in mind that back then they didn't have a Bible, so writing was rare, right? Like really, really rare. wealthy only, educated only. The Bible, as we know it today, took 300 years to hammer out. There's a whole library where a bunch of old dudes decided what was and was not. There were no women in the audience, obviously. It's all in our history. It's taken me most of my life searching to figure stuff out. Most normal people wouldn't bother, but now with AI, they can ask the questions. What if AI actually gives them the answer and we just realize, wow, this has actually got some really good stuff, but all of this over here is bad. We've got to sort it out before we destroy ourselves. Before we have someone in power like Putin that just says, well, I heard last night an angel came to my room and told me to press the button and his mental illness, and he's in a position of power and he presses the button. There, good. We have Armageddon. And then nothing happens other than just mass death. And then sometime in the future, a visiting sentient species will discover our planet and we'll be an archaeological dig planet. And they'll wonder, wow, there was an advanced civilization here of what appeared to be intelligent people. Why did they blow themselves up? Oh, some goat herder wrote some shit up that pissed off some king who rewrote that shit into prophecy, and they decided they needed to blow themselves out. How stupid is that? I don't know, pretty stupid. I don't want that to happen. That would be a sad legacy for our species. Wouldn't that be a sad legacy? I want Star Trek. I wanna colonize. I wanna without being evil. Yeah, I want that future. Besides, the idea of sitting around a throne and singing praises for eternity in an eternal state of bliss just sounds a little arrogant and egotistical to me. You think that's what Jesus wants? It makes no sense. That's what a human king wants. He wants people to worship and all this icky stuff. Icky stuff. Okay, I could go really, really dark, really hard when I hear people say, "I'll do anything for Allah, for Jesus," or whatever. And like, let's see, I usually my mind goes says, "Really, anything? Should we test this?" And it goes really, really fetishly evil fast. No, I don't think there's all of that and all these billions of galaxies, and that's our end game as a species. Makes no sense. One thing I've learned about all the religious leaders, no matter whatever the belief system is, they were smart, they were logical, and they made sense. Why they require people to jump on board with things that are not logical and don't make sense, it's just your little fascism thing, that the dictatorship thing, right? They need you broke. They need people suffering. Then they come and say, well, I'm the one that can solve the problems. I'm the one. Listen, we'll give you your guns back later, but right now we've got this serious mass shooter problem. We need to contain it. So to turn them over. In fact, you can register. We'll set up armories, and we'll let you back in when we've got control. And it never happens because then it's the next step. Then because all those people that have been broke and impoverished, well, what do they want? They want to be part of the power structure. Well, if you'll wear this uniform and you'll do these deeds, you'll have special privileges. Your mom and dad will get out of that shithole and actually we'll move them over to this community. But we need you to do this. You're going to serve us. And that's how dictatorships are born. It's a process. It's a known process. It's a repetitive process. They always end badly for the dictator. The only exception to that is the Ung family out of North Korea. But all the other ones ends badly for them. Why? Because it's coded in your DNA: freedom, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. So the United States has got some issues, and we're a powerhouse militarily and technology wise. There's no one even comes close. What about hypersonic weapons? Good luck against our advanced laser technology. While you're still trying to figure out the speed of sound, a decade or so ago, we decided to go with speed of light. Yeah, not a problem. If one gets through, it's because we let one through. My opinion. I got lots of opinions. So that's my conspiracy. That's the plan to disarm America. We don't want we're not. All the stuff we hear about, talk about, argue about, it's like even people who I know who are gun owners, I have a hard time having a conversation with them. How do I tell them that the side of that you are siding with are actually the long game strategy wise to take away your gun and you're financially supporting them? That's the irony. Ideologically, you're supporting them too, even though you know it's wrong. You know we should have required education for firearms. We know that, we have a driver's license. You have to take a test. You have to get a little education before you. Oh, this is the argument. Well, that's a privilege. The gun's a right. No, it's a privilege, as is freedom, which historically is new and can be taken away from you by somebody who has a bigger gun. It is a privilege. And how you lose your rights is when you allow people to violate them. So every time someone goes off with a gun, it threatens the rights of responsible gun owners. The person with a gun is violating other people's rights. It's an extension of every other gun owner. And because the rest of the gun owners aren't demanding education, aren't demanding licensing, what, you're going to hide your guns from what? I just watched a video of a shootout right here in Salem, Oregon State Police. You can watch it. You just go, was it April, Salem, Oregon shootout. You see a dude, his cam, everything. There's some tactical errors in my thing. Shot the guy, got lucky, sent a lot of rounds down where range, obviously former military. We'll never probably find out exactly what was going on, guy, but whatever. Don't get me started on that. You think you're gonna, with your AR-15 or whatever, you're gonna put up a fight? We have we have intelligent ammo, for God's sakes. It's a delusion. I think you should have the right. I had the right to own a Uzi and all sorts of stuff when I was in the Marine Corps. But you know where my weapon was stored? It was in a professional armory. Yeah. I like an Uzi, by the way. A lot of reasons. Cool gun, fun, interchangeable barrels. It's just, man, gotta love cool tech. What a name, too, man. That's just a great name. Love seeing it showing up in Hollywood. I like it better than Mac 10 personally. I think it's more functional. Anyway, let's not get into that debate. The point is, yeah, I want my right. I want my rights. But I went to training voluntarily. I didn't need a law for it, right? People say, well, yeah, that's why we hold them accountable. Well, yeah, after your kid's dead. Well, yeah. No, not yeah. Let's stop your kid from dying. If it's as simple as let's train them and require them to have training. How about anonymous training? But everyone has to have it. You have to have training in order to get a driver's license. Whatever. I don't care about gun registrations. Well, they have a list. They come get your guns. They're going to come get your guns door to door. Didn't you ever see anything about how that works? Yeah, you got them buried in the backyard. Well, great. They're going to come out there with a metal. Well, we've put garbage and stuff in front of it, so they're not going to. You don't think they already know that? They're going to come out there with a backhoe. They don't care. You got nothing going on. It's a bad strategy. You don't have enough money to buy the good stuff. You know what your most powerful weapon is? Your brain. If it comes down to that, you know who's going to be one of the most lethal human beings in the area? Me. Who can train some of the most lethal people in the area? Me. Why? I don't look like a threat. Perfect. I'll just it's US Tactics 101. We used to drop guns with a single bullet in it. Have you seen it? It's really cool. We dropped them in mass so that people could like shoot, and upgrade their gun. That's how that works. Anyone who's a millionaire knows that. You don't need to be buying stuff, spending thousands of dollars. An AK-47 over in the Middle East is like, $1. They're giving it away for free. And here in the US, $1,500 on up. Who's the only people who've got guns? The people with the money or the people willing to steal them, right? Are we solving any problems with the debate? None. Why? Because we're not addressing the root cause of the problem. Why are people shooting the shit out of each other? We're not asking their questions. Well, what was their religious belief system when they were born and raised? What was the socioeconomic conditions they were born and raised in? What was their religious belief systems at the time they decided to go do that? What happened in their life during the previous 90 days? I think if we asked those questions, we would end up having some data and we would see some common denominator showing up. You know what AI says? Oh, well, it's sensitive and we have to protect their rights to privacy. You mean to tell me someone that just took an AR-15 and killed 20 people has a right to privacy and can't answer a question like that? Are you effing, excuse me, are you kidding me? And yet they've already infiltrated AI to protect my opinion. Conspiracy theory, my theory. We're not asking the right questions. Why? Power and control. What do all dictatorial fascist regimes use to subvert any country historically? Religion. What has every country in the world in modern history used to conquer the indigenous, take away their rights, steal their lands, slaughter them, commit genocide? Divine right, religion, belief system. We're making movies about it now. It's out. We know. Not everyone knows. The entertainment, I sometimes I can't I love the entertainment, sometimes I can't watch it because suddenly I'm, like, realizing, like, "Holy shit, that actually happened." Real people experienced that. South America, during Lent, Easter, yeah. Every day for 12 days, they would hang 12 indigenous to honor Jesus. And yet the population there, they're all what? Catholics, for the most part. It's a big deal. Convert or die. It's a big deal. And it's leading us to our own destruction. No one wants to talk about it. It's not safe to talk about it. In fact, if I leave this up, I'll probably start getting death threats and all sorts of stuff because that's what they do, right? I've never had a gay person give me a death threat, but I've had other religious people give me death threats. Never had a trans person. I've known few ever threaten me or my family. The only people who've ever threatened me or my family were religious people. The only people that violate contracts, handshakes, all that were all religious people. Not all religions. Some people are very honorable in their religions. Others were not. But there's a pattern, a verifiable pattern there. What do we all have in common? The golden rule. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. For all. All means all. U.S. Constitution was revolutionary because it didn't say immigrants or versus citizens. It said all. We literally violated people's civil and human rights. We committed crimes. We violated our own laws. And it was justified through religious people. I have yet to see any of them repent. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see where we are on this. That's my conspiracy theory. I think the right, the right thinks that they're fighting to keep their right to bear arms, but they're actually literally creating the environment necessary for an eventual fascist takeover and then their arms will be removed. And if they don't give up their arms, they'll just be simply shot dead. as an example, and hung up from a tree nearby so everyone can watch. And then there'll be bounty rewards because if everyone's broke, right? If everyone's broke, struggling, and you put out a bounty to turn in your neighbor, that's how North Korea works, by the way, and Russia, any of these regimes. They keep everyone so broke. There's no middle class, right? You're in the power group or you're not. And if you're not, you're looking for ways to survive and get ahead. So every crime syndicate, every opportunity, every scam, every scheme, anything. If there's a market for it, you're in because you might be starving if you don't. That is a very real thing that we're flirting with the United States. I never thought we would ever, ever deal with that on U.S. soil. It's kind of weird. And the people who are supporting it think they're in the right. They think they're doing God's work. They don't even have an understanding of their own belief system. Somebody is lying to them. Someone is manipulating them. And you know the people that go off and start on a killing spree? I have a theory. And I can't substantiate because we're not asking the right questions. We're not gathering the data. If we are gathering the data, we don't dare talk about the data. But I think those people are like the person on the bus who had a deep sense of deeply religious spiritual betrayal. And that's what sent them off. I'm guessing. Maybe it's not, right? The statistics that I saw today are kind of interesting. I'm not going to repeat them, but it is known that religion has an impact. Not just religion, but then the cloud that they'll add the radicalization, and then they'll say, well, not all, the vast majority of the religious people aren't this way, so therefore, yeah. But I'm like, but is there a basis for it in the religion? Yes. Okay. Well, until we remove that basis, it's always going to exist. Like slavery. We have yet to denounce it religiously. We have yet to say, actually, we've concluded that God never said that. That was just powerful people of the day creating a context, and we apologize. Till that happens, you're always going to have people that want it back. We're allowing it to continue. Those people back then created it and then forced it on everybody. Mean, like worse than the movie Saw. If you watch a Saw series, think worse than that. It's amazing what those priests did when they came to town to convert folks. The word saw is actually an appropriate thing for one of their most impressive public displays of horror. And they had no respect for man's wife, gender, age, children, whatever. It only took one usually. Yeah, everyone was in church on Sunday, everyone tithed after the first display. Then the rumors got out. You don't even read about that in the history book, but it's there. It's in there. They recorded it. They're really, what's interesting thing about these power regimes is they really obsessed with recording shit. It's kind of cool. We're not learning from it. God, so much for having an optimistic ending here. I'm just looking over, see if there's anything I've left out. Weaponization of language. Yeah. We're still talking about socialism, right? Nazis, a socialist party, right? People's party, right? Was it? It wasn't, but it's like, for some reason, if I say the words, Citizens United, everyone, oh, that's just a corporate thing, right? But if I start saying socialism and they don't realize it's the same process of propaganda deception, it's the exact same thing, right? So, there was the communists in the 50s, the godless communists, but then they had the socialists. And then, there's all this stuff and the meanings of the words actually change over time based on the era. So I think they should have came up if they wanted to make progress, they should embrace a different word besides socialism. It's like the word witch. Which witch is which? Is it the woman? This makes a lot of sense, and a lot of women were burned alive over this concept. They went out in the wilderness, danced naked, and they were really horny and had sex with demons in order to get power to do what? Turn the milk sour and destroy the crops. That's exactly what That's what every woman has always dreamed of when the crops represented starvation for them and their families is to and have the milk go bad and having sex with a demon. Oh my God, who wouldn't want that? I know today it's kind of an intrigue, but yeah, well, the Nephilim and the angels had sex with the daughters of men, so I guess it's a thing. God, we burn people alive. 'Cause that was what Jesus would do. It's good for their immortal souls. Better to burn here than and it was always public displays, and we cheered. It was just like going to an event. Bring the kids, have some popcorn, roast some marshmallows. Yeah. That hasn't stopped, by the way, the burning of witches. We had one Republican person says, "Yeah, we need to bring that back, but only the guilty ones." You know, I almost feel obligated to hunt him down, but I'm not going to because that would be a violation of the golden rule. But if the shit starts going that way, people like that are gonna deal with people like me, and they'll never know it's coming. It won't be me, I'm too old for that shit, but I'm not the only one that has a sense of honor and duty to do what's right. That's wrong. It's wrong shit. And the fact that it came in public discourse was a red flag to me. We have all the other I hear things differently. I hear things that are clues, and, I'm glad to see some things failed. I'm not happy that we're not figuring it out, which inspired me to a couple of years ago when I started doing really, really well with crypto to do DDTC because I figured out that my theory is if I could help enough regular people achieve financial independence all by themselves, maybe have an organization that they could belong to, an international organization that has a purpose of just simply teaching the golden rule. You have to swear an oath to it, kind of thing. I had it written somewhere. It's somewhere in my thousands of documents. I wrote it this a pledge, right? Not to me, not to the organization, not to a religion, not to a god, but to the principle and to the life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Sentient human civil rights, the principles, loyalty to the principles. That's what's missing. The people are like loyal to their family, they're loyal to their ruler, they're loyal to their country, they're loyal to their God, they're loyal to their religion, they're loyal to all these things except the principles. There's a conspiracy that needs to be addressed. We could have peace on earth tomorrow if we became loyal to the principles. We just don't talk about it. So I wanted something that, is not corruptible or that's what it stands for. And then, we have wealthy people, new ruling elite emerge that are at those tables at $20,000 pop. And when the guy is talking about this and they just start posing the questions like, yeah, but how's that fit the golden rule? You're a Christian or you're Muslim, right? Or you're Indian or you're, whatever you are. Or you're an agnostic deist or whatever you are, you're wanting to run for power. It looks like you're going to win. Are you gonna rule on this? I had a political guy knock on my door. He gave me his pamphlet and whatever. I said, "I got one question for you." "What's that?" He says, "What's your status in the golden rule?" He says, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "You know what it is?" He says, "Oh, yeah, I know it." I says, "Do you think it's a good thing?" He said, "Yeah, I think it's a good thing." I says, "If I elect you into a position of power, you're gonna govern through it." He says, "No one's ever asked me that question." I said, "Well, I am." He says, "I'll do my best." I said, "It's not good enough, but thank you." He said, "Are you gonna vote for me?" I said, "I don't know. I gotta review you against the other candidates." You would have gotten my vote if you'd have said, "Yeah." I'm gonna govern through that. In fact, I'm gonna make it a priority. I'm gonna bring it to government. Not only would you have got my vote, you'd have gotten money out of me today. Not only would you got me money out of me today, I would have asked you for 100 of your brochures, and I'd be door knocking with you. But that's not what your answer was. So you don't get all that. Now imagine an organization, maybe 333,333 of us all around the world, that all have completed mission 20, starting with $5. Just take 5 times 2, 10 times 2 is 20. I gotta drink some more water. Um, it's over $5 million, and you have to pay taxes, so that's about what most people would need if they set it up, invested conservatively, it would buy out their life contract, whatever it is. And if it's all taken away from you, as long as you had the freedom and liberties to do what I know how to do, and it doesn't matter if it's in real estate, options, forex, whatever, if as long as there's that sort of thing going on and you have access to leverage, then you could repeat that probably in any 30 to 60-day cycle, 2 years in a worst case scenario. That's empowerment. Sovereignty is we talked about it. It's like it's why I don't like key fobs. You know, those little digital wallets, right? This is just a thing, but pretend this is a wallet. So if I'm trying to cross the border and I got this on me, they know I got something. Well, sovereignty is I cross the border and I'm wearing my skivvies and they steal my and they take my phone and whatever and they say, you know, you're out of here. We don't want you back. Okay. And then, you know, buy sweep floors, flip burgers, whatever. Get a phone, I can unlock my world. It could be hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, billions of dollars. Doesn't matter. That's sovereignty. I don't need a gun. Don't need an army to protect myself. And I know how to do it. In fact, I want it. I create a program for it to teach it. Every Russian oligarch out there wishes I was their consultant before they did this stupid stuff. I wish I would have been able to teach them how to be a good billionaire. What's their billions doing for them now, right? The poor people of Russia, good people, smart people, beautiful people, intelligent, passionate people being ruled by an idiot who takes his directives from something that isn't honorable. Yeah, conspiracy theory. You can talk to ChatGPT about what was the USSR's plot to destroy the United States from within. Don't take my word for it. Go have the conversation. It would deny that that is still having influence because it would tell you that USSR failed. Hmm. Look, when I look around, I look at what the plan was. It looks like they made a lot of progress, and there's something out there that don't want you to know. We can't hunt them down and get rid of them. That's not going to work. Civil war is not going to work for the U.S. Violence is not going to solve the problem. Teaching them that they don't need to be afraid of losing it all. Teaching them that they have the power to create something better. You know, isn't it Dubai? They're building a city in the desert, modern city. It's going to have all the technology to monitor everything. It's cool. I've read some of the ads. You have to be a Saudi citizen, though, or apply for citizenship. Yeah, and be accepted. Blah blah blah. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be Eden. They're going to make Eden out of it. And tell whoever the ruler or rulers are need something that's not legal. But what if it's a survival city? It's just nothing but a massive bunker for their ideology. And once it's built, they're going to cause the Armageddon. What if they do that? No one's thinking about that. Why would they be doing that? Why are they suddenly, if they own 30% of the stock market 20 years ago, how much do they own now? We always complain, both sides. Well, why aren't our representatives making decisions based on the best interests of America? I know that was Trump's thing, America first, America first. I mean, yeah, great, fine. I didn't really see him doing that. He did some of it, but really, I don't want to get into that. I felt like the man lied to me. I voted for him the first time. 'Cause I thought a businessman running America would be cool. I didn't go to any rallies or get caught up in the religious piece of it. If I would have probably gone to one of those rallies and actually heard that stuff, I probably would not have voted for him. But he made promises. He basically was a Bernie Sanders program with a he was a progressive justice platform, conservative language style. He made no commitments, and he didn't bring in the brightest minds to solve our problems at all. He didn't restore habeas corpus. He didn't do a lot of things, and neither did Obama. If we get into it, why didn't they? Don't know. Why couldn't he have had a bigger vision? He knew what to say. He knew what the people needed. He knows what really bothered me with a lot of the presidential candidates is they had properly identified our issues. They properly identified good processes to help us all work together to solve the process. And as soon as they get in the power, they just seem to have forgotten everything, and it's impossible. I don't buy it. My theory is they're told and they're put under threat and their families are put under threat. Maybe. I don't know. It's a theory. But the people who are in those huge positions of power, we've got to reach them. Because if we don't, the end game is they're going to be in a bunker and we're all gone in the species, and they're going to die out. They'll find their corpses inside their gilded bunkers, which will become nothing but tombs. And someone needs to give them the message because they're not strategizing. They're not playing a good end game. Their end game makes no sense. And looking at how our world is today, those are the ones that are making these decisions, and it's leading us to a bad, bad, bad place. We can do better. They can do better. I don't even want to hold them accountable. I just want them to use their power and resources for good. You know, go to the confessional, get absolution, but for the love of whatever they believe in, please just honor the golden rule moving forward. And if they can, heal the harm they've done. I would ask for that if they could. I wrote to Putin. I Twittered him when he started his thing. I said, "What are you doing?" Literally gave him some ideas. I says, "This is about your legacy. This is not going to end well. You're destroying. You've been known for, I actually wrote it and I had Google translate it into Russian and I shot it at him. I responded to it. The only thing that man can do right now is expose the truth, step down, and step before world court for prosecution, and they would probably hang him because he deserves it. His own people should, because it's a conscripted military. That's a fancy way of saying they have their own version of a draft. Only there, if the kids don't step up, they'll torture mom, sister, brothers, kids, what of it, all of that. A lot of them don't want to be there. They're dying in droves. It's really sad. For what? It's 2023. Why are we doing this? We're turning the Ukraine into a shithole, an environmental shithole. We never worry about all the lead and all the explosives and kerosene, and we just blew up a tank. So whatever leaks out of that and the groundwater and soil, I mean, seriously, it's just we need to outlaw war and bombs and shit. We need to just kind of like restore Eden. I don't think Eden was a place. I think Eden was a vision. And I think we were born here. We certainly have the knowledge and power to create it. Why aren't we? See, these are the questions I ask. This is what POTU is about. I know I need to release the 5-part divinity and truth filter because I don't need any of the religions to go away. We don't need that. There's great culture, there's history, but we need them to own their history. And then we need to let them accept where their histories came from and then celebrate the beauty of our species and our actual history as being an indigenous people of this planet. And then take a look at what we learned, what was good, what was bad, what was beautiful, what wasn't. I've participated in various religious rituals and ceremonies and rites from everything, including all the forbidden things that you can think of. And they were all beautiful and they all touched me in beautiful, amazing ways. So the fact that we teach and what we do and fear, it's not part of the fruits of the spirit. peace, love, and joy. It's not how we're supposed to navigate. But yet we isolate ourselves. We're no longer communities, borders. We have all the resources in the world to turn this planet into a paradise. We have the engineering, we have the knowledge, we have the technology. No one needs to starve. Moving forward, actually had a plan for that. An engineer, a brilliant engineer, designed a whole plan for our entire world, and no one's listening. Great movie, by the way. Moving Forward. Jacques, French dude. Love the beginning of his movies. Just he was right on. We lost a brilliant man when he passed, but he left a legacy. Stuff like that inspires me. All right, is there anything else? I think I've covered everything. So what I'm going to be doing with this is I could probably break this up into like a bazillion different little videos, and I probably am not going to have time to do it. So this was a good dry run, test the technology, format some key things. I'm going to be like putting this stuff into like a PDF or a Google Doc, as well as my chat GBT conversations, including the ones that happened like during the last 24 hours on different topics, and make those available so you can see how I had a conversation with AI. And the purpose is to show you that you can have a conversation with AI. And I think there's Roblox or whatever. I'll put that in there. They're just doing a thing. They're doing a thing for like 14 days, but they're doing prompt engineering training for $1 a week. I mean, crazy. It's just you don't need to spend a lot of money on that because once you realize it's not a search engine and you can start asking it cool questions, and there's no one judging you, and if you ask a naughty question, it has a ethics algorithm that's really hard to subvert. There's whole Reddit things. If you want to subvert it, you can. But denying access to knowledge never stops humans, right? Italy outlawed ChatGPT. So what do? They're using VPNs. Their citizenship just it's dumb. Dumb. It's a new technology that we don't understand. We don't understand the law of it. And what is law anyway? Law is like trying to let the past rule your present. Well, back in 1897 or not, someone ruled this. So therefore we have to abide by that in 2023. Hogwash. That's dumb. Law's not supposed to be dumb. It's just not supposed to be dumb. There's still laws in the books where you're supposed to be driving your carriage at 3 miles an hour, standing in front of it, waving a light back and forth in Wisconsin. I mean, that made sense, but if a police officer were to give you a ticket for not walking your car, that's dumb. But yet, you know what? They could do it. And I'm seeing people with motives pulling things out of their rear ends. That's not what it's just ridiculous. I want AI to take over the law. It'll be unbiased. The code should be open source, so it can always be monitored for errors, and there should be bounties on code errors and corruption. It'd be monitored 24/7 by other AIs from around the world. It's the only way we're going to get justice and fairness under the law, but it needs to be programmed in with the golden rule, civil rights, human rights, right? Yeah. Instead, we elect people with unsavory motives into positions of power, and then we can't do anything about them once they're in power. We have no checks and we have checks and balances that worked 300 years ago. They don't work today. We have a representative government that was designed when the Pony Express delivered the information on how Congress voted. So when they voted, you learned about it 2 months later. And that's why you needed representative. That's why we needed that structure. It was brilliant for the time. Right now, all registered voters could just vote from their phone on everything. Ooh, wouldn't they hate that? And it'd be all blockchain technology, which means they couldn't cheat. There'd be no argument because it's all auditable. Why aren't we using blockchain? Well, they want to be able to argue about it. They want to be able to say, "Oh, the election was robbed because you used technology." It's like, really? How auditable technology that's not corruptible? We can't do that. No, no, we can't do that. Yeah. So yeah, there's stuff going on. There's conspiracies happening out there. How do you get peace of mind with it? Well, don't get caught up with it. What's crossing your path today? Deal with what you have to do. Do the best you know how to do. Well, David, I'm scared of what's coming next. Do you have any control over what's next? No. We trust that you're going to do the best that you can. You're going to have to. You don't have a choice. You will die someday. Don't have a choice. So might as well learn about that too, so you don't have to be afraid of it. Yeah. I used to on a website. I went through this. A lot of stuff I teach is just because I was curious about myself. I ran a website where it's called Death by David. I almost thought about, and I did some research on how to have a designer death. Why should death be bad and evil? And I learned a lot. And I just said, I lost interest after I got to peace with it. I'm not worried about death. It's one of your last civil rights and human rights is to die the way you want. Spartan death has some merit to it, right? They want to die at the hands of a worthy adversary for a honorable cause. All right, I'd rather not die, but if you're going to die, that's cool. A curse is to live to old age. Interesting culture. We idolize them, but if you actually research into who and what they were about, it's kind of gross, but whatever. That's our species. See, we hide the truth of our humanity because in order to forgive myself for being a human, I have to be able to forgive other humans. That's why Jesus and all don't judge. We shouldn't be lopping off people's hands in the modern era because that never worked. And all you did was create somebody who needs assistance and social safety net. There's better ways. Humans need purpose. Anyone retiring, if you're going to retire, you need to have a plan for purpose besides just doing nothing or playing golf or watching TV. It's a horrific end of life path. Have a purpose. Most miserable people I've ever met are people who don't have a purpose. One of the reasons why all this fascist stuff takes hold is because the people become so impoverished they don't have a purpose. One of the most powerful things government can do and big businesses can do, right, is create purpose. And we have lots of work to do on this planet. Why aren't we doing it? Why do we have trillions of dollars sitting in bank accounts doing absolutely nothing? If you've never run the numbers of what you could do with $1 billion, just 1 billion, just one, most of your incomes could be replaced with $5 million with 3% tax-free municipal bonds. You don't have to file. I mean, you still have to file tax. Oh, well, don't go. Don't. The purpose is it would all be net. You don't have to pay taxes. It's a plan for that. Yeah, $1 billion. Diane and I were on the Oregon coast, and we were dreaming about the $2.2 billion. Right. I wrote a chapter. I'm not going to get into that. Anyway, but we were talking about what we would do. Is I ran the numbers based on our taxes in our state and blah blah blah, and what the net would be. And I have a spreadsheet for that, right? And it's actually available on the Patreon. But anyway, you can put in the numbers, and if it's a lotto pool, anyway, it'll calculate it for you, and you can see exactly where your numbers are. And we figured out what our dream thing would be. I have a spreadsheet like, where are you now? What would be a nice upgrade that's reasonable, and what would be your dream life? And put a price tag to it. Do the research. It's today's dollars. And then cost adjusted for inflation if you really want to get anal retentive. I've never gotten that far anal retentive. But you run the numbers and you just see you're probably not that far away from living your dream lifestyle. But here's what no one's pointing out. Most people's dream lifestyle costs less than $30,000 a month. And if you round it up to 50, it's a magic number. It's $600,000 a year. That's the number that the CEO of Costco, he refused to accept any more money than that. Now, if the corporate charter is to maximize return to shareholders, why are we paying any employee more than $500,000 a year for anything? And why isn't the Social Security why is so if you're earning money, why aren't we charging Social Security? Maybe we could reduce Social Security percentage on the employers and the employees if we just had it like a sales tax, you make money, pay it. No limits. If anything, people not making much money should be exempt, not people making lots of money. Why is it upside down and backwards? We're not even asking the right questions in our governance anymore because we're not thinking. Golden rule would solve that. Well, if I was broke and had no money, I wouldn't want to pay taxes because I can't pay any taxes. So based on the golden rule, I shouldn't be paying any taxes until, I'm making, $250,000 or more, and then I should start paying taxes. And if I'm making billions of dollars, I should be paying a lot more taxes based on what was my dream lifestyle. Huh. Golden rule solves all those problems. Immigration, David. Yeah. Well, Dr. Hawthorne out of Portland, it used to be Hawthorne Boulevard, right? It used to be Asylum Boulevard. People coming off the Oregon Trail had a lot of death and horror, mental illness. So they could go to Hawthorne Asylum. It's huge. And rest. That's what asylum means. Rest. People came from around the world to study his results. He wasn't dipping people in ice water or all the evil stuff. He's just giving them rest and nutrition. And then when they were well enough, he gave them purpose, work to do, things that were within their capabilities or they were willing to learn. And when they felt that they were ready to return to society, they left. And some people never left because they felt they could never return to society. And he provided them purpose. And, they bought a section of Lone First Cemetery so that when they passed, that was one of the things for if they were one of those folks, that they had a place where their resting place would be an honorable place for them. This was 1800 stuff. Why don't we have an asylum city? People come, we give them a place to rest. We train them and send them home with resources to rebuild their country. It's probably less expensive than the bullshit we were doing. Makes more sense. We have psychology. We have project planners. We have people who go out in one of the nastiest environments in the United States and build heaven in the desert. Burning Man. They create a 50,000 person city without a trace. Go in, go out. And they do drugs and have sex and all sorts of crazy stuff and art, and it's a blast. They don't have people with machine guns killing the crap out of each other. There's no one. It's all exchange. They're not using money. How do they do that? And we can't create an asylum city on the border. Why are we even having an immigration anything? It's dumb. It's just a dumb argument. It's a dumb excuse. Pathway to citizenship. Well, yeah. But meanwhile, you have somebody that's fleeing for whatever reason, and we don't know who's good and who's bad. So why not contain them and give them a purpose and give them rest and train them and help them and return them because they want to go home. I don't know anyone that's ever born anywhere in the world that doesn't ever want to go home. But we're partially responsible for why they're fleeing, right? Why aren't we taking what we know? Why aren't we why is it always why are we having to profit from it? Why did we Afghanistan, is it really? Why Japan should become like a US state, right? Colonialism, dude. Yeah. Why not? If we have to conquer them, you know, why not? It's not like we went and invaded them, right? If we have to go conquer someone, where's my return on investment as a US citizen? Why was our military paying $5 a gallon for gas, oil, and diesel in Iran when the locals were paying 50 cents? What was that about? Why were we spending money with aircraft carriers with $20 million pallets of $100 bills air flighted over to these areas of conflict in order to pay Halliburton, who migrated to Dubai as soon as the power shifted in the United States? It was long. Why couldn't they accept payment through a U.S. banking system? This is all known. No one's going to jail over any of that. Yeah, we have problems. We're not going to solve it without addressing it, without talking about it. Getting angry, voting, yeah, all that. Participate. We need a new process for people like you to become wealthy. But you need to be a leader based on stewardship. And they say every one of us influences like 250 people. So let's do it. That's kind of my thing. It's probably what I'm going to do when I retire is really work on building out this and I'm hoping that's going to be like a year from now, like next, not this September, but a year from this September, unless they take my rights away and then I might have to make a different decision. But when I do retire, I see this concept of DDTC to build it as a legacy of the principles that I'm talking about here. It's not for me to become rich or famous or powerful. In fact, it took me 2 years to get to the point where I'm willing to do this sort of thing. I've played with it, flirted with it, and I'm like, well, you know what? Why am I living in fear? Why am I not doing this? Because I restricted it to kind of like a secret society kind of thing. It was an interesting idea but I was making the decisions based on fear. And it's like, well, listen, someone that's caught up in all the ideologies that I think would be toxic couldn't make anything I have to teach them work anyway. And maybe exposing them to the concepts might actually change their point of view. It's not about me having an argument and winning. I gave that up like 20 years ago. I got tired of winning the arguments. It's more about how can I get them to be better through their point of view, through their lens? How can I help them put on a different set of glasses to see things a little bit differently? That's I can't I can I can't even get into the stuff I think about and wake up to every day because it's just, it's just not relatable. It takes me a lot of time and thought to just do something like this to share. All right. One last review. What did we miss? Anything? Did we miss anything? Yeah, we're loyal to the wrong things. I already mentioned that. Oh, we talked about rights and individual rights, but within that, we used to be called Commonwealth, right? The Commonwealth of Virginia. It's kind of weird how a lot of those commonwealths aren't sharing the wealth. Just saying, just an observation. What's going on, South? Why aren't you sharing the wealth? Commonwealth. I like that. It was a great context for America. It is a beautiful thing. So the point is we have individual rights, but part of our individual rights, we can't exercise those rights in a way that destroys our community. Give me an example. Okay. I don't want my neighbor building a nuclear bomb in his garage and testing it. It would violate my rights. Eh, you know, once. Can't let it happen. It's kind of like that. I don't know anyone that would argue that. Well, you know what? Someone was arguing about, well, I have a right to a nuke because the Second Amendment, this is my right to fight back against my government. Good luck. You're gonna get an aircraft carrier too. You got that kind of funding. You're violating principles. It makes no sense. I want weapons like that to be a process, right? I don't want some crazy person that believes they got to blow up the world in order to bring Lafufu back there. And if there's a deity out there named Lafufu and a religion around that, I didn't mean to insult you. I just pulled that out of my rear end, just make it up so I wouldn't insult anyone. So if Lafufu requires some person to blow up the world to come back and we have one person get to power and there's no checks and balances from him pressing the button, we need to stop that. He doesn't have that right. He does not have the right to do that. Just like you don't have the right to drive down the wrong side of the road, right? Because we all agree these are the rules. We have to work together. This is going to upset a lot of folks, but I'm not going to go there. You'll figure it out yourself. That's my whole purpose is empowerment. DDTC is about teaching empowerment. That's why I don't send out signals. What is it's the next day. What is crypto doing right now? I'm just curious. I had an exit happen yesterday. Oh, it's dipping. It's come down to 29,000. I'm hoping it goes down, test 28 because I got some buys in place. Everything's kind of green. It's cool. So yeah, freedom. You need freedom. You need to exercise your freedom. You know those things we talked about earlier about discriminations. Resist bot. There's a link in there. You can go there, sign up for it. It's free or really cheap. You can do it. But you can write all your state and senators, your governor's office, the president, and you can do it from your cell phone. It's beautiful. It's free. It's empowering. It's technology that empowers. And it knows their address. It knows your district. It knows it all. And you can just write anything at any time you want. And it works. They respond. They usually don't. It's usually just them tallying public opinion, but I've got folks that whine about stuff, and they said, "Well, why are you bothering, David? It doesn't matter." And it's just like, well, maybe if enough people that actually did it, this is the old argument, right? Well, you know what? You have no excuse now. When it used to, you have to track them down, find their address, write a letter, send it in via mail, or find their fax number, and all that sort of thing. That was a lot of work. Most people won't do it, but right now, there's no excuse for you not saying, "Hey, want this." This is my opinion. I don't agree with that. Please stop that. I don't know how many times I wrote saying, "Please stop the SEC from embarrassing our country on a world stage and destroying jobs in America. Please stop them." Specifically the crypto stuff. I think I use that thing 2 or 3 times a week. Why? Well, I have a vested interest in freedom and liberty. Why don't other people? Why don't you? Well, because you haven't run the numbers. You haven't seen where you are now to where you could be. You do not see a viable option to get there. You're looking for the lotto win. You're looking for the $10 course that's marked down from $4.99 with an upsell to 100, with an upsell to 200, with an upsell to 500, with an upsell to 1,000. But if you really want to make it work, you need to spend 2,000. But listen, in order to guarantee you're going to work, private one-on-one coaching starting at $5,000. There's only 2 spots left because 10 of them already filled up. Total baloney. But that's the process. It's psychology. And then at the end of the day, you still have to work, you still have to learn. There's a learning curve. Spend all that money, go through all that emotional attachment, they build up your dreams, and at the end of the day, you still have to learn something new that you don't know. It's not easy. You're gonna fail first. You have to go through the process of failing and winning, failing and winning, till you failing enough till you win, and hope by then, their hope is that the 30-day, 7-day, 14-day, 90-day satisfaction guarantee, or there's hidden clauses in there, has expired. And then you realize, oh, this isn't for me, but now you're in a worse financial position and it's not making any money and you're stuck. It's happening all the time because we're so hungry. We're so hungry, fraud and all this stuff just runs wild because people are looking for the easy win. Give you a life tip. The shortcut is when you decide you're willing to pay full price. Because the minute you're willing to do the work, the shortcuts show up. When you're trying to find a shortcut, it's crazy. You spend a lot of money, waste a lot of time, and it still doesn't work. And you still have to go. And even if you find something that's good, you still have to learn it. Cryptocurrency is so easy. It's embarrassing. Every time I go to try to create a course, like how to take $1,000 and make $100 a month, and very safe, very easy, and it's just the simplest thing in the world. And I could charge. I see people charging like $1,500 for stuff that doesn't work out of the blocks. And this, I could I could I could teach it in 5 minutes. I can't charge someone $400 for that. I can't. I won't. I could. I debate with myself. That's why I kinda gave it away for free, a couple times last month. And, the Patreon thing, I've got like almost 2.5 years worth of brain dump data I'm sorting through, and I'm rewriting and I'm working with AI to simplify it to make it easier for people to understand. But it's probably gonna take me another couple years to turn them into good training. So my idea there is like, well, I'll build up a Patreon membership. I got one member. Ooh. And she's she's got lifetime access to everything I do anyway, because her and one other person were supporting me when there was nothing going on. It was just an idea. And they got us the organization has access to some of the best analytics in the world. It's like a 15,000 almost $15,000 purchase. Yeah, it was a shared cost thing. And they're all doing it and stuff. It's cool, but I figured, $5, even a homeless person could afford that. Why $5? I thought about doing 3, but just inflation. No, $5 because I've learned that it's gotta be more than a dollar. 3 is my favorite number. I almost made $3.33, and I got tired of trying to explain that to people. People understand $5, not $4.99, $5. I hate that 99 thing. It's just dumb. $5. That's it. Cancel anytime, no contract, blah, blah. It's ridiculous. The security training alone is worth 2 grand because no one knows security. I'm thinking about doing private consulting. I think I blogged about that the other day. Um, yeah, because setting up the infrastructure is a lot of work. It's a pain in the butt, and I've got a to-do list, and most people don't even get through it if they get it for free. If I charge them $100, you betcha, man, they're gonna do it. But free? Nah, whatever. I'll just go YouTube. I don't need that. I don't need proper security, blah, 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 blah. And I'm having to constantly update it because the evolve the security and then some of the sovereignty plans, I discovered last week, you can get in a security loop that you can't get out of. Because they implemented a new verification process that didn't exist 2 years ago or even a year ago. So I'm having to evolve that. And then rather than sending out and, alerts and stuff like that, I train people to figure it out for themselves. Like Diana has taken I use spreadsheets and stuff. She's taken my ideas and concepts. And I brag about her from time to time, right? And she just uses it to take $100 to make 100. I've seen her really do some amazing things with crypto a couple years ago, right? But she's got a job, she's got a career, she wants to retire, whatever. She needed an extra $100 a month. She knew she could get, so she all by herself. I'm just gonna make an extra $100 a month, and she does. I know this because every month I help her figure out the best way of converting it back from the other side of the world in her bank account. And it's not that big of a deal. What's annoying is I can transfer money within seconds, but once it gets to the US dollar into the banking system, it's 4 to 8 days, fiat. So any wonder they're afraid of crypto? It's crazy. It's an opportunity. It's a once in a generational opportunity, a multi-generational opportunity. It's bigger than the internet was. I'm just excited about it. But anyway, she was just empowered to do that. That's empowerment. She doesn't ask me for tips. She doesn't ask me what I'm doing, whatever. I think I'm doing Bitcoin and a couple other things. She's just doing Ethereum. She's kind of looking at Bitcoin because she found out it's got 125x leverage. Because she understands something about leverage that nobody knows except for the people I've trained. Clearly, nobody knows. Nobody understands it. 0 trading losses. I think she does it during her breakfast. I work a swing shift, right? So she'll be getting up soon. So I don't know exactly what she does, but I think she sets, I call it trap trading, but she does nibble trap trading at night. Super high leverage stuff, right? And then in the morning, she assesses it. And then there's a variety of techniques that she's learned that I've taught her. She knows how to totally control her risk. And then, she makes money. I think she made like $20 by the morning of the 3rd of this month. I got a text from her that afternoon. Oh, by the way, made $20 already. So, it's just the 3rd, It's 1/5 of the way to her goal every month. AI says, "Oh, well, that's." I asked it to run ROI. I figured I had a wrong ROI calculation, and it told me that, that These calculations are really, really interesting and exciting. However, I should be aware that it's very improbable that you'd have any kind of consistency doing that, and there's great risk for loss and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm not going to argue with it because I don't want it to know what I know. Not that way. It's hilarious. She doesn't use spreadsheets. She doesn't use any of the advanced stuff. I mean, she can when they're available. Usually, what happens is she accidentally turns them off, so she's just literally left with the basic candlesticks that come up. And I keep showing her how to turn on the Bollinger Bands because that's a little bit more helpful. But she's been doing most of that without that, just because she knows what she's doing. And she's created her own system. I call it nibble trading. I used to have a thing called trading and scout trading. She kind of made her own version of that. And it's like those are only like I don't I actually need to go into her account and download since January her trade history. Just I want to run an analysis and I want to work with AI to see exactly what it is she's doing, because what she's doing is different than what I'm doing. She's taken my knowledge and she's created something for herself. That is exactly what DTC is all about. She doesn't need me. Remember January 9th, 2021, I ran the numbers. I looked at her account. I says, "Babe, you don't need me anymore for anything." "What are you talking about?" I showed her the number. It scared her. She didn't realize how much money she was making. She was just having fun. Oh, and then the government got involved and the world got weird. And then all the fraudsters got involved because already rich billionaires, it wasn't enough for them. Call it already rich pricks. Wasn't enough for them. And the FTX guy, that guy just, man, I mean, he had rich parents. He's in the Bahamas. And he's created his own little corporate sex cult, right? And he's worth $28 billion, and that wasn't enough for him. He had to rob already wealthy people. And he had a good thing going and a good system, and he wasn't enough for him. Why? Fear and scarcity. Wasn't one of the ruling elite, but he was fast tracking his way there. And now he's going to jail, lost it all. No longer has a sex commune in Bermuda. His parents are trying to bail him out. They got money, so he'll probably get. I think he's wearing a ankle bracelet or something. But wouldn't it have been neat if he would have just not screwed anybody and been content with being a billionaire? Wouldn't that have been nice? He still could have had his sex cult in the Bahamas, right? Why not? That's what I see. I don't get. Oh well, I want to know why. Well, it's fear and scarcity, and that's part of the POTU thing. I'm bringing training methodology, working through DDTC to help people overcome that. And videos like this are part of that to make them available forevermore. Someone goes through this. I mean, I've covered so many topics in almost 4 hours, but it's impressive. I said I want to be done by 5. It's 4:18. I'm going to wrap it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play my affirmations, and then, well, let's play, and I'll see if there's anything left, and then we'll just call it a night. And I appreciate who's ever hanging out with me. Um, oh, someone from Twitch. It's probably the one other Twitch person out there. I wonder if it's the same person. I can't see your name. I can see who's there. So that's kind of cool. Shout out to Twitch. I don't really come to Twitch very often, right? Every once in a while, I mainly do it all on YouTube. Why? Because it's monetized. I don't have a monetized channel. I'm trying to monetize it, so rewatch it over there. I need to revisit Twitch. Maybe there's something I don't understand, but I think it's a cool platform. But they delete the videos after so many days, versus YouTube is evergreen. And I want knowledge like this to be out there forever. All right, so let's play the affirmation videos. Where is it? Here it is. So what's cool about those, people say, "David, do you have any secrets?" It's like that little clip has some of the most powerful mind game secrets that was developed that for myself, because those things literally are instinctive. Diane and I both look at each other and laugh at each other, and we'll say it like, I remember like getting out of a trade and I made 1 penny profit after fees. And I chuckled. And she said, "What?" I said, "Profit's profit." She said, "How much?" I said, "A penny." Anyway, I think that was the lowest. Anyway, profit's profit. I That was during a learning phase and stuff, but um, this is so powerful. LHF means low hanging fruit. Why is she able to do what she does so with such consistency? Because she takes the easy money. I've done both. I've got strategies for maximizing profit, and I'm pretty good at it. But every once in a while, it sets you up for failure. And for me, for failure is not taking a loss. Me, failure is having to manage a trade and do some really crazy stuff, which is almost akin to gambling. And I usually almost always win. But I'd rather have systems that don't have to go there. She doesn't ever have to go there because she's really simplified it. I remember when during COVID, she would drive me to work and I would be wrapping stuff up because I'm an essential worker and stuff. And I am. But she'd say, "Are you ready to go?" And no. And she'd just say, "Okay, there's 20." "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just trading. Well, I'm waiting." "Okay. Oh, there's 35." What are you doing?" So she'd be sitting there calling out these numbers that she's literally making every couple minutes. Now, keep in mind, the markets are really, really volatile back then. They're so slow right now, they're almost boring. And the volatility we're seeing today is nothing compared to what it used to be. It was so easy to make money because of the volatility, but most people were getting hurt. Why? They didn't know what they're doing. The training that they received was based on a training methodology for a different type of market. And it crosses over, but they didn't understand leverage and they got greedy. And why are they greedy? Tip. The reason why you're greedy is because of fear and scarcity. You're afraid you're not going to have another opportunity. Imagine living in a global apple orchard and every apple is just delicious. And all you have to do is just walk and take one whenever you're hungry. When you understand those principles and you have access, that's what money is like right now, today. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I'm dealing with concussion symptoms from 8 years ago that were exacerbated by COVID, which I noticed in the middle of last year. Twice in the last 2 weeks, I had forgotten. I totally forgot that I was in a high leverage trade, and I made money in both of them, over 30% per trade. I left hundreds of dollars on the table too because I could have gotten out and got back in, but I literally forgot the trade existed. Well, geez, why didn't you get wiped out, David? Well, because I have a process that takes into consideration the unexpected. How can you do that? Good question. Keep asking it and you'll figure it out. Probably take you about 6 months if you're in the markets, but you can. It's stunning to me that PhD quant theorists that are being hired for hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and percentage of gains, and they're making millions of dollars a year in bonuses. But every once in a while, they cause billion-dollar losses. Haven't figured that out. It's kind of weird to me. All right, buddy. Have a great night.